Spaces dropped on a new edition of Soccer Down here. It is a Wednesday. It's an overreaction Wednesday. It's one of the rare overreaction Wednesdays. Not a ton of Tuesday matches, but Atlanta United had one last night, and they gutted out a 1-0 win on the road, their first road win in CONCACAF Champions League. They finished with 10 men. They played the entire second half with 10 men. Lots of storylines coming out of it. We'll get into all of that you want to today. If you're new to an Overreaction Wednesday, all the comments don't have to be overreactions. They can be underreactions. They can be on par reactions. You can determine which one you want to provide. But these shows are very interactive, a lot of back and forth, a lot of responses from the peeps out there who are listening and who watched the game last night. I also want to get your reactions on a really poor performance from Liverpool in Spain against a beat-up Real Madrid team. They do still have a shot because they got the away goal, but I expected more from Liverpool in that match. We can get into Dortmund and Manchester City, a little tighter than maybe some people thought. It was definitely tighter in the Dominican Republic late last night with Arcaí, who got a draw with Cruz Azul. Now they've got to go to Mexico City and get a result to advance, but it is an amazing result for the Haitian club. And Portland and Marathon to kick us off in Conca Champions. It was very Conca crazy, and that's what we're used to out of this tournament. A lot of back and forth, kind of a weird, sluggish, thick, heavy pitch, and all kinds of stuff to dig into from that. So all the reactions along with breaking news today. It will be a very busy show. We'll also be joined by Mike Conti at 10 o'clock. We'll be joined by Klaus German, one of the commentators for Paramount Plus, at 10:30 to talk the Argentine Copa de la Liga. Packed show. John, where do you want to start? I assume you took notes during the match, and are they at all able to be read?
Yes and no. So, well, and with the post-game show that we kind of did, or the post-game conversation that we had last night on Twitch, went through most of it, but, you look at...
Not everybody watches everything we do.
I know.
So let's recap it for the new folks out there. Let's refresh for the audience.
For the new folks briefly. For me, the Brad Guzan red was a red, although the optics of pulling out a yellow card and then being talked into the red, that was subpar.
It's definitely a red. No question about that for me.
Yes.
No question. You don't know, and we don't know, how the decision happened. Did he accidentally pull the wrong card out? Possible. Did he get talked into it? Possible. Did he have his AR in his ear with his headset saying, dude, that's a red. This is why it's a red. Possible. So, let's be careful there. He got the call right, which is the important thing. 100% It's a red card.
Call was correct. And then that leads us to Rocco Rios Novo, who has now started the Rocco's Modern Life gifts all over the place. And, great, was it 6 saves, I think, last night?
6 saves.
Officially 6.
Yeah.
I know, as the match got a little long in the tooth, there were a couple of moments where you're kind of sitting there going, ah! But, overall coming in cold, although I did like, at least in the first half, where Brad was over the wall right next to Rocco, and I'd love to know what those conversations and encouragement was like. So, solid performance by him coming in a very difficult situation. So tip of the hat to Rocco coming in there. He didn't give you any reason to sit there and say, okay, I'm not going to consider you for next week. So we have that going forward. I thought that Santi Sosa, for me, was man of the match with his performance and his hair. 2 separate issues, but once again, both man of the match worthy. I liked what I saw out of Brooks Lennon. Liked what I saw out of Jake Mulroney down the right-hand side before he was pulled after the red card. Liked what I saw out of Miles. And in the second half, out of Ezequiel Barco. And after with 20 minutes to go, the team in general settling in, doing what you have to do, taking care of business. You get out of there with a 1-0 win. So it definitely was some stuff to talk about this morning, but a lot of folks with moments that you could talk about in performances as well.
A couple of things about the red card, because I think we're way too hung up on this part of it. Red card's the right decision. He's late. He commits the foul. It's a red card. Ezequiel Barco's pass back to Brad Kazan comes up short. That's what put him into the situation. That's a problem that has to be corrected going forward. Okay. The mechanics of the way it went down. The reason I am leaving it open-ended as to why it was yellow then red is I don't know why. And I have not seen the referee say why. So could he have been talked into it? Yeah, he could have been. He was crowded. It looked bad. Could he have gotten more information from his AR? Yeah. Could he have literally pulled the wrong thing out and got caught up in the moment? Yeah, it happens. Mistakes do happen. I don't know. So I'm not going to cast aspersions in that realm here. It did look bad, and it is something from a referee instruction standpoint they're going to be all over him about, is because of the perception with people crowding, as DK says. He gets swarmed, it switches to a red, it looks like he got talked into it. That's a bad look. Now, full credit to Atlanta United for not falling apart because of that look. We've seen teams do that from time to time, where it's like, okay, now everything's going against us, blah, 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 blah. We're going to start kicking people, or we're going to be angry, or we're going to complain about everything, et cetera, et cetera. Didn't really happen. Walchara, the style has nothing to do with the quality of the pass from Barco. It's a mishit pass. That's all that matters here. He didn't hit it well. He left it short. That's the problem. Yes, playing back, and style doesn't dictate which pass you make. Let's not act like this is a rigid style. You want to be able to build out of the back. Barco did the right thing jumping into the passing lane. Excellent interception of the initial ball. But his pass back to Gazan left him hanging. That's not good enough. It's a mistake. It happens. It's not the end of the world. And I think some people overreacted to Barco making a mistake, which every player on the field made multiple of them last night because that's what happens. But yes, it's a mistake. It happens. It's okay. The referee part of it, he got the call right, which is the most important thing. The mechanics looked bad. He got the call wrong on the penalty. It should not have been a penalty from the last replay they showed. No VAR. I don't know if VAR would have gotten that replay in time. That is one difficult element of this because we didn't see the replay until a good 5 minutes after the penalty was converted. So probably a good 8 to 9 minutes after the actual incident. It looked like a penalty. Watching it live, I thought it was a penalty. Arms up. The first replay they showed, thought it hit the arm. The second replay they showed, it's like, oh, wait a minute. But then that was all we got before the penalty. I think VAR would have corrected that, and I don't think it would have been a penalty. I don't think it came off his arm. If it did, it came off of his face into his arm, and I don't think that should be called in that situation. Atlanta was very fortunate to get the penalty. You take good fortune where you find it, and you got it here. It happens. It's part of the game. I know Alawalense is going to be frustrated about it. Their coach wouldn't be drawn into the conversation after the match, wouldn't go there. He said that's for others to talk about. But you get that good fortune, and then you handle your business. And it was dicey at times. Rocco's in his first professional match with a first team. It showed. He had some loose hands at times. He dropped a couple in front of him that are, But as he said after the match, his best play was one where he had maybe his worst play, where he spills it in front, but he didn't lose his head. He stands tall, and he makes the follow-up save. That's massive for a young player. That is so big for a young player to make that play and not fall apart mentally when you make a mistake. And that's a credit to Rocco because he made a couple, but he also made some big plays as well. Men of the match, if we were doing the hockey style 3 stars, it'd be Sosa as the number 1. For me, it would be Lennon as the number 2, and it'd be Rocco as the 3 possibly. You could go Barco as the 3 as well because he got the goal. Barco seems to be one of the most polarizing players in the history of the sport.
Yes.
Because it feels like literally in the comment sections, great play by Barco, great idea, great ingenuity, great creativity, and then the next comment is stupid, bad, awful, big mistake. He's the new Pitti, I guess. You didn't really have that in 2017, 18. I don't know why we need somebody to be a punching bag that's on this team. It's kind of silly. to be perfectly honest. Barco's game had good and bad things about it. He will dribble a lot. Yes, he will hold on to the ball. A lot of times when you hold on to the ball, you're trying to create something for somebody else. You're waiting for a run to materialize. Your timing's going to be off at times. People are going to get caught offside. There was one to Joseph. He held it a beat too long. Joseph is offside. It happens. He also nearly had a great goal from distance. He worked very hard. He had a great second half. And a great second half with 10 men, which was necessary. He was tired at the end. All of that. Four-card says Pitti was the new Barco. Barco's the original Barco. Well, then that's a shame because you got one of the most promising young players from South America, and we're using him as a punching bag here in the fan base, and I don't understand why. Is he perfect? No. He's 22. He just turned 22. He's a young player, and he makes mistakes, and he also makes brilliant plays. It happens. Welcome to the game. So many players have gone through it. But the polarization around Barco is really odd at times. Johannes chimes in with Barco, Lynn, and Sosa as men of the match. I'm absolutely fine with that. Sosa was at number one for me. I thought Santi Sosa was essential to the way Atlanta United played. I think he will be. And it was an absolute true three center back setup. We talked about it coming in. Maybe they would try to bridge the gap a little bit and play the 4-3-3 they've been building on, because that's going to be the base, and have Sosa a little bit in front and try to stay connected to defend their two forwards. It was a true three center back setup. Now, late in the game, it was definitely a line of five because Lennon and Bello got pinned deeper and deeper as they were running out of gas, and as Alajuelense was throwing more bodies forward. But it was three center backs. Sosa played as a center back here. But what you saw occasionally was both Sosa and Miles Robinson stepping into that midfield when the time called for it and pushing the team forward when they could do that on the ball. And it was very well played from the two of them. Miles was outstanding in this match as well. I think at times maybe we take him for granted because he's just so smooth with his defending. His tackle that blocked a shot was massive. Really good on the ball in moments. Didn't really have any bad giveaways. Good dribbling forward, creating space. Very aggressive because he knew he had cover. It's a good performance from Miles Robinson. That little bit of a mean streak we're seeing develop from him continues to grow. Things that were kind of
nice to see after irrationally half the people apparently decided he was taking a step back last year because he had a bad game.
Oh, yeah, he had a couple bad games, and it was, it's all over for Miles Robinson. He should probably go play something else. He's going to be just fine, and he'll be good in this way of playing. I think Gabriel Heinze will build on what Frank de Boer did for him. I mean, he had his coming out party in 2019, became a much better player. I think it's going to continue to grow. Negatives, things that need to improve. I mean, obviously building connections. It's hard to do that when you haven't played a competitive game. Sometimes the passing wasn't where you want it to be. The commitment was there. The work to play in the right way was there. The actual quality of playing in that way at times was off, and that's to be expected. Lisandro Lopez, I thought, struggled a little bit. I thought he struggled to connect with his teammates. Provided leadership, absolutely. Worked hard, no question. The connections, the passing, it struggled a little bit once you got into the final third. But you were the better team 11v11 by a large margin in my mind. You created more chances. You looked more dangerous. You were controlling the game completely 11v11. You get to halftime. You get into the second half. You get a fortunate penalty. You get the goal. And then you just gut it out. And it was guts. And it was not pretty. But it is a win on the road. You still have a lot of work to do in the second leg, and I think Alajuelense is 100% correct in saying this thing isn't over. This thing is not over at all. This is an opportunity for Alajuelense to come in, and they get one goal on the road, we're all back square. And they have the firepower to do it. Now, they will potentially, although Andres Karavic, their manager last night, said that he is hoping that everything gets worked out and the players who right now are not going to be able to play are able to play and get their visas. Johan Venegas should be an easy one, and he's going to be essential here. You know you're not going to have Hernandez, so I'm assuming it will be Venegas and Montenegro starting up top for them next week. Be curious to see if they do anything else to try to get more players forward and attack more? Do they try to get Brian Ruiz more into the game going forward? Things like that. Don't know. That's not really what they've been doing. It's not really what they've had to do for a long period of time in the Costa Rican League. Can they find a way to do that? They get one goal, we're all sweating again next Tuesday. So it's a good win. It's a really good, hardworking performance. There's things to build on and there's things to improve as you get through the next 90 and then through the next 90 and through the next 90. Reflecting on it, Jarrett, what else stands out to you from last night?
The guts of all of it. Barco to me, is in that 3 man of the match, the 3 stars of the night thing. Just if nothing else, like the way he worked in the second half. And I know we talk about the dribbling and the holding on to the ball. That kind of thing works when you got 10 men and you have him making 30-yard runs with the ball to give everyone else a breather and a chance to reset. They had one late in the game specifically where he comes down the left, cuts it across the middle, ends up picking up a foul that gives everyone a chance just to kind of catch their breath. I mean, those moments are great. And I thought Ezequiel Barco might actually die on the field because it looked like there was one break they had very late where he started to run and it looked like his legs just said no. His body was, I think he was trying to reserve everything he could for the defensive side of things. And I was impressed just with the fight of it all. Like you said, Miles has got a bit of a mean streak developing, which is good to go along with just being an absolute freak of nature. George Bello has been reading from the Book of Darkness in his spare time, apparently, because he is George Bello is CONCACAF ready now. Like he's getting in there, getting mixed up with the ref, separating guys from the ref. Doing all the kind of things you want to see in those situations.
Yeah, pause there for a second. I want to touch on that really quick because it's a little thing, but it shows how he is becoming a man of the world, George Bello. After the penalty, and the Alajuelense players were justifiably angry. Again, I don't think it's a penalty. I think from the last replay we got, it felt like it was like a stop-motion camera they found somewhere in the building.
Yeah.
But the last replay, it looked like it did not come off the hand. It came off of the player's face. When they're all crowding the referee and arguing, and look, maybe they felt like they did talk him into the red card on Gazan earlier. So they're doing what they have to do. It's part of the game. We've all seen it. George Bello, the youngest player for Atlanta on the pitch at that point, in a field player capacity anyway. Rocco wasn't going to get involved here. Bello gets in between the referee and the other team to try to get things back moving to get the penalty taken. So Barco's not sitting there being frozen out. It's a little thing. It's a very tiny thing, but it's an important thing that Bello recognizes that situation and wants to end the discussion and get the penalty taken. Very, very savvy from George Bello in that moment.
No question.
It was. Yeah.
Jarrett still got more, I think. He was paused.
Yes, go for it, Jarrett.
Yeah, go ahead, John. No, go ahead. You're good. Go.
Good grief.
Well, it's great knowledge of the game state for George Bello in that case, where it's like, all right, you've made your call. Let's go ahead. You made your decision. Let's go ahead and keep the game moving. Great presence there and great game state for the mind of George Bello there, Jared.
It was. Aside from that, you saw Joseph back on the field. Joseph just had thankless work to do because being the kind of 9 that he is, everything he was going to have to do in that game was going to be thankless. It was, hey, Joseph, I need you to go win jump balls. And you're probably going to either commit a foul or you're going to get fouled, maybe earn a throw in here or there. It's all thankless work. Welcome back. See, aside from that, Santiago Sosa is just stupid good. I want to see more of Ibarra, but I assume Ibarra is going to be the odd man out on that midfield when Marcelino Moreto comes back, as we talked about last night.
I'm not so sure of that next week, and we'll get into that here in a minute when we talk about looking ahead, because you're playing a team that's going to play 2 up top again. So I think Sosa's probably going to be a center back again, and Ibarra becomes important in that situation because of his experience as a holding mid, as a deeper lying mid, a more defensive midfielder. So in general, I agree with you. Next week, maybe not.
We'll have to see. Someone get some stickum, for God's sakes, for Rocco's gloves, please.
Yeah. Let's test the boundaries there.
I need him to need help getting the ball off his gloves, basically. I need, if every time he catches it, I need Miles there to put a foot in his chest and grab the ball and pull with all of his might to get them off those gloves.
You need your Clifford Franklin moment from the replacements where they had to take the cup off and they had 3 guys to grab it, basically, is what you're asking for.
Pretty much.
Thomas Jewin is worried about the yellow card accumulation for Franco Ibarra. You got to advance, guys. You don't want to sit somebody and say, well, we're worried about you getting another yellow and then missing the next game. There's no next game right now. Right now, it's Tuesday. And you got to deal with an angry team that their pride is hurt because they hadn't lost since November. And you went in their house and beat them. And they're going to feel wronged by it because it shouldn't have been a penalty. And I'm pretty sure it shouldn't have been a penalty. And they had chances. So they're going to feel wronged by that. They're going to come in with everything they have. This is not going to be the situation that I expect with Marathon going to Portland, where I think they're outmatched completely. I think they did great to get the result they did yesterday, but I don't think they can do it in Portland. I definitely don't think Arce can do it in the Estadio Azteca against Cruz Azul. Alajuelense is going to come in and not be afraid at all. So I know yellow card accumulation is something that we all do overreact about, but you can't here. And in this game, if you do what you did here, and I don't think there's any reason to expect it to be different, 3 center backs. Sosa played as a center back. What we saw late in the game is why I think Franco Ibarra is important, because at times as the game went on, you didn't really have a holding midfielder. As Atlanta's backline got pushed deeper, there was a big gap between the central midfield and the center backs. Alajuelense started sitting in that gap. They started sitting in that spot. They put up a tent. They started a fire. They cooked some hot dogs. They made some s'mores. You can't have that happen. So what you need to do is have a more holding midfielder be able to fill that space. It needs to be Franco Ibarra. It should have been him in that situation last night. He's got to be, recognizing that moment. He's 19. This was his 12th game at the first team level. He played 11 times for Argentina, so he'd started 10 games. It's going to happen. This is something you're going to point out to him. But you don't have another player like him at the moment. If you had Mo Adams, maybe we're having a different conversation. You don't. So I think you need to play Ibarra centrally in front of that back 3, because I expect Sosa to be a center back next week to deal with their 2 forwards. And it's going to come up a lot. I think there's going to be lineup freakouts almost every game, because the lineup and the shape of the lineup and the shape of the team at kickoff is not as important as maybe we make it. But in this case, you will always have 3 center backs when they have 2 forwards. If you don't, the defensive midfielder will have to play as a quasi-center back. There's no way around it. Defensively, you got to have a free man. And you saw it last night. When you play up very high in the first half, you got to have somebody free who can cover the space. Brad's going to have to do it at times. And we saw him come out of his 18. We saw him play in a different manner. He's not a traditional sweeper keeper, but he's going to have to fill some of that role. But also you got to have that free center back, because you want 1 center back marking 1 forward. You want center back 2 marking forward 2. And you want free man 3. That's what you have to have. So if you do that again next week, because there's no reason to think Alajuelense doesn't play 2 up top, you need that defensive midfielder to fill the space. You got to work with Ibarra this week to say, all right, when we get in these moments, you've got to drop a little bit more, and it becomes a little staggered with the midfield. If Heinemann is your partner and he's up a little bit further to help you get out and help you play out in those moments, that's fine. You got to sit back and not let Brian Ruiz or any of their creative players cook s'mores in front of the back line. You've got to be in that spot. So that's something to work on. He could pick up another yellow and he could miss the first leg of the quarterfinal. You got to get to the quarterfinal, and that's just where you're at. And by that point, you will be back to full strength. And now in the quarterfinal, if you play Philadelphia, and we'll see how they do in the first leg tonight, they play 2 up top as well. So then you're going to be back into the situation a little bit, and you solve that problem when you get there. But accumulation is an issue. It's a scary thing. I don't like how CONCACAF has it, 2 yellows and you're suspended. It's the rules of the competition, and you just got to deal. You can't speculate on advancing until you actually advance. You just got to get there, and you got to figure out that lineup when you get there. Figuring out who the backup goalkeeper is going to be next week will be interesting because Alec Can, we don't know if he will be ready to go. Ben Lundgaard, I think, was closer than Can. Wasn't close enough to make this trip. Rocco can be signed again to a short-term agreement, and he can play in that game. No problem with that. But who's behind him if that's the case? If it's Rocco in the team, who is it? Because Vicente Reyes isn't on a pro deal. You'd have to sign him to a pro deal and do a short-term agreement, unless you sign him to a homegrown, which I'm not expecting yet. Or you got to sign somebody else because there's no other goalkeepers under contract who can be on the roster for next week. That's just where you're at. You don't have a goalkeeper with the twos outside of Rocco and academy players. So that'll be an interesting solution, and I'm sure there will be a lot of questions asked of the medical team when the team is back, and they flew back after the match last night, so when they reconvene later today, there will be a lot of conversation about Alec Can and Ben Lundgaard, and all right, if you guys aren't ready to go, are you ready to be called upon in case of an emergency to sit as the number 2? If you're not ready to do that, then we've got to figure out a solution.
Yeah, I think that's going to be one of the main gnashing of teeth topics, and it has popped up in the timeline in the Twitters overnight and in this morning as to what the situation would be where Rocco is concerned. But yeah, getting back to the yellow card accumulation really quickly, you got to get to the next level of the tournament. You do what you do in the short term to get there, then you worry about it later. But for me, that's why the roster was constructed the way that it was, to give you depth in situations, whether you're dealing with absences for tournaments or absences for whatever reason. That's why you were constructed this way. But you've got to get to that next stage and worry about it then.
Everybody is really, really excited about Rocco Rios Novo. Is he the Jarrett, the new Francisco Cabrera of Atlanta sports?
Oh, wow.
Well, damn.
I
don't know.
I can't think of somebody more like that was not expected to be a key figure in a big game, but ended up being one of the key figures in the big game.
Kind of feels that way right now, doesn't it? I don't know. I don't know what the kid's gonna do. I also don't want to heap I don't want to heap too much pressure on him.
We got to be realistic about it. This was his first professional game. In our conversation after the game last night, it's great that it happened, and it's great that he was involved. He wasn't just a passenger. He was critical. He's got room to improve. You got to be a little more sure with the hands. If you can't catch, you got to push wide. You got to be a little sharper. Those are things that are there. When we talked about it after the game, I didn't have him in the man of the match poll because of some of the little mistakes he made. Doesn't mean he played poorly by any stretch. I just think he wasn't man of the match on it for that. So he's a young player, and it's why he's not the starter right now. He's going to make some mistakes, but he's comfortable on the ball. I thought he showed you a couple of times he can play with the ball at his feet. He's got good footwork. Just got to get sharper. Just got to get the experience. Just got to go through it. And that's the same for almost any goalkeeper. We are being requested, Jarrett, for you to describe Rocco's mustache again.
It looks like the mustache that a teenager grows the first time they realize they can grow a passing mustache, and they're going to hang on to that damn thing as long as humanly possible. It's
pretty wonderul.
He's 18 years old. Ain't nobody mad at him for it. It's just what it looked like to me.
No, it's all good.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good style. It works for him. I'm okay with this.
That would take me probably about it's got to take me about 3 months to get to that stage.
I'm not even touching that one. Questions about the short-term agreement thing, and Honest cleans that one up. You can sign 4 of them in the season. Each one's 4 days. I saw Costa Rican media didn't really understand that roster process, and I can't blame them. yes, his contract is up on Saturday, but then he becomes an Atlanta United 2 player again, and he can become an Atlanta United player again on Monday. Okay. That's just how it goes. You've got 4 of them. I mean, you would expect by the time you get to the quarterfinals that Lundgaard would be back and Brad Gazan will be back from his red card suspension, and you're good if you qualify. Outside of that, you're only using him in case of Alec Cannon and Ben Lundgaard being injured once you get into the season. And I don't think there's been any real worry that you wouldn't have at least one of them on the bench on April 17th. Goalkeepers, the bar for emergency hardship short-term agreements is lower because you only generally carry 3, sometimes 4. So if you need a backup, you can call somebody up from the USL team in that situation. You can also go to the pool goalkeeper thing. I think MLS still has that out there if you need to bring somebody in to be the backup for MLS if you want to save Rocco's short-term agreements for a CONCACAF run. So, I mean, it's welcome to MLS. The rules are a little weird sometimes. This is something that plenty of managers have talked about needing to change. I really think they should explore what the NBA does with two-way contracts and those kinds of things. And you don't want to stash guys in USL contracts and then play them in MLS. I understand that. Top players are not going to sign a USL contract and be stashed. So it's not like you're really going to sign a designated player and put them on your USL team and then bring them up and we're smarter than the salary cap rules. No, that's not going to happen. So we can broaden it a little bit, 4 short-term agreements and these kinds of things. We can do better than this, but that's a whole bigger conversation with MLS. Rocco can be there next week. The question is who else can be there, because right now you don't have anybody at the moment. We will have to wait and see. We'll take your questions. We'll take your reactions. What do we have on Twitter in terms of reactions to Atlanta last night, John?
Let's go back to after the match was over, and then we'll get into stuff this morning as the show goes along. Caleb Wright, the team played well overall for their first game. Rios looked solid for his first team match as well. Guess my being more nervous for the game than I was about getting the COVID vaccine was for mostly not. Hashtag Overreaction Wednesday.
One thing on Rocco, and Johannes, correct me if I'm wrong here, because we talked about it a little bit before the Charleston game. I believe to properly identify our young goalkeeper with the glorious mustache, it is Rocco as his first name or Rocco Rios Novo as a complete name. Is it Rios Novo? I don't think it is Rios by its own. And it's one of those things we went through at the very beginning with Leandro Gonzalez Perez. So we'll make sure we've got the proper nomenclature around that. But I believe it is all 3 is his full name, Rocco Rios Novo. And if you want to call him by his first name, it's Rocco. The other one, is it Rios Novo, which I believe it is, but we'll see if we can get some clarification on that.
Herschel Skywalker on Brooks Lennon. Brooks Lennon is a true winger that is responsible defensively, would be a good replacement on the men's national team for Ariel or even Morris. Discuss.
I know what Fox had, Jason Nix, but we were kind of trying to pay a little closer attention to it. They did the same things with Gonzalez Perez. And I'm also with Sam Williamson. You say it with respect and in full. Rocco Rios Novo. That's correct. Lennon will be getting national team attention by the end of the season, in my opinion. He is a former winger who can play as an outside back now and be very, very good going forward and much better defensively than he gets credit for. I still think it was one of the smartest moves the front office made going into 2020 when they upgraded that right side, because I do believe it's an upgrade. They got younger, they got better in terms of the cap, they got better in terms of cap hit, and they installed Brooks Lennon there, who is a much better right back in the way that you want to play. So, really good stuff.
You will put some respect on his name.
You have to. You
Everybody.
have to. He's outstanding. He will get opportunities with the national team because what Greg Berhalter wants to do and what Gabriel Heinze will be doing are fairly related. There's a lot of overlap. Like, there can be some more specific differences when you really dig down into it. But, yeah, like, the way Greg wants his right backs to play, Brooks is going to be doing a lot of that here. He's going to be bombing forward. he's going to be tracking back. He's going to have to defend 1v1 in space a lot. He's showing the ability to do it. I think he could take the biggest jump this year from returning players.
DKB has a couple of thoughts. Okay, so I've slept on my thoughts from last night, and this is what I've gathered. 1, Barco is easily the best player on the pitch and is playing determined for Europe.
A lot of people will argue that. I don't think he was the best performing player on the pitch last night. But in terms of quality, could say that. I wouldn't argue that too much. I think he showed that quality a good bit. But performance, we've seen him better, but he was very good. And the number one thing for me about his performance last night was, I believe, his effort to atone for a mistake that ended up putting his goalkeeper in a bad situation, and he ends up making a bad tackle and getting a red card. He worked extremely hard in the second half, and that is a credit to a very talented player that we see a lot of times. Players with that much talent maybe don't put in the work off the ball that Barco did last night. He ran himself into the ground to get this team what it needed in the result.
2, Sosa is absolutely a top 5 defensive mid in the league. Respect this man.
Yeah, and I disagree that he should have been going into the season, because he's 21 and he had played a grand total of about 21 games or 22 games with River Plate's first team and didn't always play those at defensive midfield. There were people who were trying to say that Sosa should be playing as an 8 in this team. That was a pretty common thread out there, but when he was signed and in the offseason. So I do believe, and I'll break the fourth wall a little bit. I was trading some text after the game with our good friend Kevin Egan, who is all about Santi Sosa as well. So the Santi Sosa hype train will definitely be chugging along. He will be a top 5 defensive midfielder in this league before we're done.
Was Kevin still in his tux at the time?
I don't know. I didn't ask him. We were texting, John.
Well, it was, he was doing the Hall of Fame ceremonies and
All
saw
right.
pictures of the text.
We got an update. First name is Rocco. Last name is Rios Novo. So Rios is not appropriate. Rios is not correct. Rios Novo. And the question that Johanna says is there a hyphen in the last name? I haven't seen it that way out of the Argentine media and anything from Lanús, but that will get clarified. It is Rocco first name, Rios Novo as his last name. There we go.
Yeah. Point 3, Miles and Anton made a statement out there and stood on their heads.
Yeah, Anton was very good. Miles stood out a little bit more because I think he had some bigger plays to make, but Anton was very good. And, man, it's so nice to have somebody in this team who can give you what Anton Walks does. You know, you don't have your other starting center back who we believe is still in a hotel preparing to join the team here at some point in the Atlanta area from Instagram pictures that have been posted. And the manager has talked about him, and we're waiting on an announcement. Paperwork can always be fun. But until he is here, Anton Walks is just fine. And when you have that mystery person here who might have initials of AF, Anton Walks will be a guy who can step in when needed. He can give either one of them a break. He can play on the right side when needed. He can play on the left side when needed. We haven't seen him here do it, but he did it in his career breaking in at Tottenham as a holding midfielder. He will be such a valuable part of this squad off the bench. I could see him playing in MLS 30 games, maybe starting 10 or 12. But playing 30 games and being the number one defensive substitution off the bench.
4, I'd like to have seen Joseph do a little more while he was on, though I understand the tactical fouls.
Yeah, at that point in the game, you'd love to see Joseph do more, but it's just not where the game was. So,
right.
You know, if he's breaking plays up and being a pest, then he's being a pest. That's fine. Yeah. You didn't have much of the ball at that point, so there really wasn't much to give him opportunities to do. Welcome to playing with 10 on the road in CONCACAF.
And then last point, Rocco can rock on. Awesome performance. #we back.
The Rocco commentary is going to be very fun over the next week.
Let's see. Antino has a playlist.
Oh,
for this
no.
morning.
You're going to really have problems with this.
Yes, I am. For
How
Rocco.
many of these will John know?
None.
None.
I think he knows one of the artists.
I know, yeah. The artist, I know two of the artists,
You got
but
two.
none of the
Impressed.
songs.
Okay.
Then there's three.
Okay.
For Rocco, Antino says Rocco Dadon, Uoeno.
I don't think you have the facilities for that, big man.
I'm agreeing with this. I'm just reading what's on the copy.
Mm-hmm.
For the entire squad, Tupac's Against All Odds.
Mm-hmm.
And then for Joseph, T.I. King Back.
Oh, yeah. I forgot T.I. was on there. Yeah, you're going to know T.I. Okay. You knew two.
Yeah. So I knew two. So knew two of the three artists and none of the songs. So that's about par.
That sounds about right for you.
Yep. Five Stripe Daily, the response from the team after going a man down just felt, in quotation marks, different. The energy and clarity of attack, taking the game to the opposition and then getting stuck in after the lead. It was confident in a way that we haven't seen from this team in a while.
Yeah, I mean, confident because of the work you've put in. And I think the comments from Gabriel Heinze afterwards kind of give you that sense. He said something that was in the Costa Rican media and translated. I translated it from Google and trying to understand the point. I think it's a good one. He said, we're missing many things. Today, we could quietly lose the game. We need to play games, make mistakes, learn from those mistakes, and grow. We're a young team, but I believe in them a lot, and what we have to do is keep working. The belief from the technical staff in the young players showed with their performance last night, the confidence like is being referenced here. They know that they've got the support of their manager, and they know that their manager is being realistic. You know, it's not coming in and expecting them to play a perfect match and everything to look sharp. That's impossible. You know, Gabriel Heinze understands that. And I think he took the pressure off of them. And I'm assuming at halftime especially, he laid out the way he wanted it to play, but he took the pressure off and told them to go out and do their jobs, and he had their backs. That's a really important element here, and it shows with a young team. I would rearrange a little bit of the comments about the game because I think with 11, they looked good on the ball. You could see the foundational elements of the way this team will play. A lot of width, a lot of interchange. You saw Brooks Lennon come in through the middle at times. You saw Barco coming across. You saw Mulraney look very dangerous in 1v1 situations. You saw Bello stretching the field on the left. You saw the building blocks of where this team will go as the season goes on. It'll get better. After the red, that's somewhat out the window. You got the goal. You started the second half where you still had a commitment to get forward. I think you would have liked to have gotten forward more as the game went on, but you got tired, and Alawalense really threw everything at you, and you guys just got pinned back a little bit more. And it was hard for Lennon and Bello to have the legs and to have the time to get forward and stretch the team going forward. So you had to grind it out, and you did, and it was a little shaky at times. I mean, it wasn't like Alawalense didn't have chances. They did, and you got to tighten that up in situations going forward, but you grinded out a 3 points when one would have been pretty freaking good if you'd walked out of there at 1-1. You got 1-0 coming out of there. You got your away goal. You're going to feel great about that.
Let's see. Michael Head is in this morning with a couple of points. He says, awesome match. Not that it matters much, but who was captain after Goose exited?
First, it was Lisandro Lopez, and then when he was subbed out, it was Emerson Heineman.
Both teams' uniform numbers were illegible in that broadcast, making it difficult to ID the new players.
Yeah, there's that. I didn't think I could find a team's uniforms that were more difficult than the King pitch. Alawalense somehow managed to do that. It really looked like they didn't even have numbers on from a distance. It was a little tough.
Well, it was like they were holographic, like an old
It's
Pokemon
like you were
card
staring
from
at
back in the
aluminum
day.
foil.
They were just
Yeah.
super dark red and shiny. If they hadn't been shiny, I think it would have worked okay. But by giving them the shiny element, it was impossible. Until they went to a close-up, it was impossible.
Well, at one point, like, I looked at him like, oh, there are numbers, and then a guy turned. I'm like, oh, the numbers are gone now. They left. Like when he shifted like 5 degrees and the light hit it a different way, it went from being very obvious to being an invisible illusion.
It's like the 3D baseball cards you used to get in Frosted Flakes when you were a kid. You just twist it and the picture changes.
Yes,
to
John.
wrap up, Michael Head says in all caps, Sosa. Nice to see all the guts busted to get the W.
Yeah, Sosa was outstanding. He had multiple really good decisions on the ball in the first half when you were playing 11v11, and he had multiple strong defensive plays when you were playing 10v11. So, I mean, you got a well-rounded performance from Santi Sosa. Very, very good.
Daniel Price liked what he saw overall. Hard to take too much away with the man down, but they persevered, and that's what matters. Barco was good. Wish it was more consistent.
Yeah, you can't really say much about consistency at this point. It's game number 1, and you only played 43 or 44 minutes with 11 players. So you can't even really ask for that at this point. It'll get better. Like Heinze said, you've got to play games. You've got to make mistakes to then learn from the mistakes. You haven't even gotten to that point yet. Now you've got some footage, at least some, playing 11v11 to say, hey, this has to be better. Look at this run. Look at the lack of this run. There was the situation on Barco's good opportunity that he hit wide, that he hit with a cannon right foot, where I think the play would have opened up if he had moved off the ball. He played the ball and kind of waited and lingered instead of pass and move. That's one that you can isolate and you can say, hey, when you make this pass, look at the space to your left. If you had passed and moved there, you could have received the ball back and been in on goal. Next time, this is what we do. When you're defending with 10 late in the game, you can isolate that big gap where Alawalense cooked s'mores in front of your defense and say, we can't let this happen. We have to change the way we shape up when this happens. It needs to look like more of a diamond in the midfield, not get so separated. Somebody's got to sit deeper and stay connected to our 3 center backs. So those are things now that you can say, we did well, here's some mistakes we made, here's what we do next time to fix it.
And then wrapping up Daniel's thoughts, he says, it was good to see the King, Sosa, and Lennon were man of the match if it wasn't for Rios. And then he had Rios in all caps for his thoughts about Rocco Rios Novo.
Rocco Rios Novo.
All 3.
Yes, or just Rocco.
Yeah.
Or Rios
Mr. And the Falcoholic came in, agreed about George Bello being the oldest teenager on planet Earth,
yes.
And the old soul mediated the situation perfectly last night.
It's such a little thing, but it's very important, and for him to get there and handle that was good. Referee in general, I thought was good. 29 years old, I think 4th CONCACAF Champions League game. He's got U20 World Cup under his belt. He'll be one of the best referees in CONCACAF. He was good. He missed the penalty. I can absolutely understand how he missed the penalty.
Yeah.
But I think he missed it, and you don't have VAR to clean that up. The mechanics of the red card to Gazan, got to clean that up, and you got to not. You don't have to rush there in that situation, and maybe he felt like he did because of the reaction from the players around, and he wanted to diffuse it by making a quick decision, but. As I think Johannes pointed out earlier in the Twitch pitch, you could see a moment where it looks like he's trying to hear what his AR is telling him in his headset. I think if he had just bought himself a little more time, and maybe next time from a mechanic standpoint, you go, you call the foul, you don't rush to pull a card, you go to your AR to then get everybody away from you, you come back and you make your decision. Little things. That's a mechanic thing. He got the call right. Outside of that, he managed the game well. He called it a little tight towards the end. I thought he was a little harsh on Joseph for some of the, trying to shield players off, but no major mistakes. The penalty is
He also let Joseph undercut like 3 players.
He did. He undercut a couple. The penalty is a big mistake, but when you look at that from a referee perspective, I need to go back and see where he was. I mean, it took TV 10 minutes, 9 minutes, however long, to get us a replay that we were, okay, yeah, I think he missed the call. So I can understand how the referee can miss that call. I get that. You want to get it right. You want to also find out where the AR was in that situation. Could he have helped more? Don't know. But in general, flow of the match, I thought the referee was good. And Atlanta gets fortunate from a call that maybe they got a gift penalty.
Yeah. Tafka's in this morning, came into the game recognizing that a 1-goal loss would be a reasonable and acceptable result. Favorable call or not, we won this match under extremely difficult circumstances. Absolutely fantastic display of character on the field last night.
Yeah, but we got to also not diminish the fact that you got fortunate with a penalty. It's a fact. It happens. And a lot of times in these games, an MLS team doesn't get fortunate with anything. So it happened. You get it. It's happened the other way many, many times. Monterrey, I thought, got a very fortunate penalty down there in the quarterfinals in 19 that would have changed the game completely if that hadn't been given. These things happen. So you get it. You handled everything that happened really well. You handled the red card to your goalkeeper very well. You went forward at the beginning of the second half. You created the situation that the referee's got to make a decision on. It was a great interplay with Barco and Bello. The cross comes in. You had good numbers there as well. Call is made. You convert the penalty. Good penalty taken from Barco. A little bit closer to the goalkeeper than maybe you like, looking at it back again, but it's a good penalty. He doesn't get it. You're up 1-0, and you managed the rest of the game out well. You did what you could do in the match. There are things that are out of your control. The red card decision, out of your control. The penalty decision, out of your control. What you could manage, really, really good. Really, really good. But yeah, you also have to be realistic and say, that might not have been a penalty. And that's okay. It happens. It's a game.
Colonel goes a couple steps down the road with his thought. He says, if Alajuelense doesn't sort their visa issues out, one CONCACAF option would be to move the match somewhere visas are not an issue. Where might that be?
I don't know, but that won't happen because you're not going to punish Atlanta United for that situation. And you do have other teams in. I haven't heard anything from Marathon yet about issues with their players and visas. Saprissa reportedly has 3. It is on the team ultimately, and it might be more difficult than normal because of COVID-related procedural changes. But you're not going to punish Atlanta United by taking away the game from them hosting it. I wouldn't think, because it is an administrative issue on the part of Alajuelense.
Couple more to catch us up on Twitter. Tafka says, George Campbell looks like a grown damn man with 4 exclamation points filled out and all. He's being subbed on, and Tafka's looking at him going, who the hell is that?
He's a big boy. He is a big boy.
And then the last thought from Twitter comes from Bartimus Prime about the center ref. He says, personally, I felt he lost the game with the Guzan send-off because of the miscommunication with the cards. Not sure he got a great review.
No. He didn't lose any. Come on. Referees are going to miss calls. He didn't lose the game by getting a call right. And he didn't lose the game because he didn't lose Atlanta United in the game. They didn't, blow their tops. They didn't, lose their composure. So no. He didn't lose the game. You're never going to get a 100% perfect game from a referee. It's impossible. You're not going to get a perfect game from a player. So we got to be fair here. He got the call right. Mechanically, yeah, he could have handled it better. But you get the call right, it's hard to complain. The penalty is a much bigger complaint, to be perfectly honest. Like, if we're going to get into things like that and talk about losing the game, Alajuelense would tell you he lost the game when they had a penalty called against him that might not have been a penalty. That's a much bigger issue than a mechanics issue of having the wrong card out and then getting all the information and then showing the proper card. That's not as big of an issue as we're making it.
And we are officially caught up on the Twitters.
All right, Twitch pitch is flowing. I've tried to catch a few
I'm officially leaving.
Going. Jared is leaving. Any final comments, sir?
No, not really. That was pretty much it. I mean, to John's point, and to your point, I'm sure they're very upset about the call. I don't blame them. I would be too. If you want to play contrarian to that, don't leave your fates up to the CONCACAF gods when you're up a man for 45 minutes. Credit to Atlanta defending, but Alajuelense is going to feel like they should have done better with a couple of opportunities, and next week should be a fun little barn burner.
Yeah, it's going to be a fight next week. It will 100% be a fight. Atlanta doesn't have anything sealed in this. And Alajuelense, even with the players they might be missing in the second leg, they're going to make it difficult for Atlanta and Kennesaw next week. Jarrett, thanks for hanging out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Adios. Jarrett_Smith on social media. We're going to get Mike Conti here in just a minute. Tomorrow night, we will be in Dalton, GA, talking soccer at Dalton Brewing Company. 6 o'clock show. If you can't join us in Dalton, you can watch on Twitch, twitch.tv/soccer down here. You will be able to participate via Twitch. We will do everything possible to make sure we have as strong of an internet as we can possibly acquire in Dalton, Georgia, so you can watch and be part of it. It'll be a lot of fun. So we will be up there for a 6 o'clock show. Be there at 5 if you're in the area. You come out early. Grab a beer for happy hour. We'll start at 6. We'll run to 8. We will have our new scarves available. If you are looking to get one and you will be in the building, we can get you taken care of. We will have some of the old stuff available that we have left in our stock. That'll be there too if you want to get one. If you're watching from home, send a picture of what you're drinking tomorrow. We would say get Dalton Brewing, but you have to go to the brewery to get it. So I'm looking forward to sampling it, bringing some home with me. But take a picture of what you're drinking watching the show tomorrow night at home. Tweet it at us at Soccer Down here. Tag us and tag the Flood Project, and you will be entered to win a $50 gift certificate. If you are able to acquire the Dalton Brewing beer, which if you're in that area, you can. You got some time today to do it. You got some time tomorrow afternoon to do it. You get entered twice
There you go.
if you are drinking the Dalton Brewing beer. So that is tomorrow. That is going to be a lot of fun. Big trip up to Dalton. We'll be talking to the North Georgia Soccer Academy as well. Going to be a fun time in Dalton tomorrow evening. Hopefully you can join us either in person or virtually. I'm sure we'll still have a lot of CONCACAF Champions League to talk about. We will have a lot of UEFA Champions League to talk about. We will have a lot of Atlanta playing at home in a few days to talk about. We'll look ahead to MLS. There will be plenty of topics for our show tomorrow night, just like there are plenty more topics for today. But before we get to that...
Oh, there you go. Nice transition. Well done.
You get excited about the silliest things. Let's see how excited John is about telling us about Steve Apolinsky.
Apolinsky and Associates, LLC, proud supporters of everything soccer down here in the SDH network. For wrongful death and serious injury matters, one place you need to go, and it is said firm, Apolinsky and Associates, LLC. 3 different ways that you can do it. You can shoot Steve an email directly, steve@aa-legal.com. You can pick up the phone, give him a call, get a free consultation, 404-377-9191. Or you can go on the World Wide Web, large device or small, type in aa-legal.com. Hit the enter key, the return key, the arrow key, whatever advances you to the home page, and you can get the full 411 on Apolinsky and Associates, LLC. All the down tabs, you can sit there and look at the accolades. You can look at all of the different cases and topics that they can handle for you in 2 separate time zones, the Central and the Eastern, for clients in Georgia and Alabama. Recognized as Legal Elite by Georgia Trend Magazine for being one of the top 100 firms in this here state of Georgia. There are other accolades that they have acquired as well, and they are on the website at aa-legal.com. But there's only one place you need to go to get all of your wrongful death and serious injury matters taken care of. And if it's not there on the website, you can go to the pop-up window, 24/7, 365 and a quarter. Thank you, Chris Hutchison, for setting us straight on that. 4, recognized as Legal Elite by Georgia Trend Magazine, and I've just redundant-fied myself. This one went to hell. Apolinsky and Associates, LLC, aa-legal.com. Bring on Mike.
You're not getting out of that easy.
Oh, I'm not saying that I should. It's just that, damn it, I lost my place.
Oh, no. Oh, no. That's not good.
No, not at all.
After a big day. Yikes.
Yeah, that's a yikes.
You got a 9, you got a 2, you got an 11. People are very happy about last night's game, and they are helping you. But wow. Doof. Rocco Rios Novo needed to come make that save. That is correct.
That is true. I needed Billy Wagner, Bruce Suter, Lee Smith, Dennis Eckersley, somebody come in and make the save.
Yeah, that was interesting.
That was a horrific ending, was what it was.
There's that too. People still love you, but they gave you a 6.
Well, that's perfectly legitimate. No, I will take these slings and arrows today because I knew that I screwed it up.
Mike Conti is now with us on the Twitch pitch and on our Soccer Down Here app. What's up, Mike?
Jason, the day starts on an ominous note for me.
Uh-oh.
In the office next to mine here at home is listening to Zed and Maren Morris.
Yes!
Yeah.
Oh, no.
The middle. Flashbacks to Frisco, Texas.
Let's brace yourself. What an awful, awful night that was.
Wow.
Awful.
Wow. That ended very badly, and then they played like the extended
repeatedly.
Super over and over. They played the extended mix over and over again during the fireworks show after a late loss. Like, there's nothing worse than if you're the visiting team and you lose the game late and you have to watch the home team's fireworks and they play the same song over and over and over.
Oh, that's so bad.
Yeah.
It's a bad time.
Yeah, I mean, last couple of years, the Hawks did all those post-game concerts, and they lost a lot of games, so it was kind of weird trying to do a post-game show as, Jeezy was performing some extended cut number down on the floor, and you're supposed to try to be happy and upbeat during the post-game show, and yeah, it's tough.
See, Michael Ruiz, this is nothing to do with the quality of the song. This is a very specific memory. Well, Mike might disagree with what I'm saying. The song's fine. There's other songs
but
by
the
Zed.
perpetual overplaying of it, I'm sure, gets old.
No, it doesn't even bother me that way. There's other songs by Zed and female singers that I prefer to it. I really like Maren Morris, but this is a very specific memory of a very bad time on the road in Texas.
We all have songs in our lives that we just associate with negative moments.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There's a Maroon 5 song, and I forget what the title is, but if I heard it, I mean, I could say, yeah, that's the song. And I remember when I was working at WGST and they blew up the radio station and they marched me down the hall to fire me. That was the song playing in the hallway.
Wow.
Because Power 96 was right down the hall. So every time I hear that song, I think about getting fired.
That's
so,
rough.
no, we all have songs like that we associate with negative moments. And when I hear that particular song, I associate it with one of the very few setbacks from that 2018 season. And actually, kind of a turning point in that 2018 season, because then Tata worked the heck out of them the next day in Philadelphia. They went out and they beat the snot out of Philadelphia Union that following Saturday, I think. So it actually turned out to be a positive in the end, but at the time it felt very, very negative.
Yeah, it's when we're on the road, if that song is like playing in an Uber as they're on our way to the game, it's not a good day.
Turn it off.
That's happened too.
Change the channel.
Luckily, I don't think you had Zed Maren Morris playing before the match yesterday for anybody traveling to the Estadio in Alajuela. It's a good win. I mean, there's a lot of like elements, I think, to dissect here, but ultimately it's a good win. It's not over, and you got 90 more minutes to close this out.
Yeah, but you're in awesome shape. All you need now is a result. I don't want to ever make an assumption that this thing is over and we can start looking ahead to Saprissa or Philadelphia. Mm-hmm. But they're in really, really, really good shape.
You're in good shape.
Especially if the reports are true about Alajuelense maybe having some visa problems with some players. And we know of the one player who the courts won't let him leave the country yet. So
Marcel Hernandez, we know, will not be there. From what I've read, Johan Venegas should be available. He needed to... Or no, it was Alex. Sorry, not Venegas. It was Alex Lopez from Honduras. He was not available to show his passport because he was away with the national team. He just needed to show his passport. So that one I would assume gets done. Right. The other four, one of them is the third-string goalkeeper, so not a huge issue. 3 of them started last night and would be a problem if they're not available.
Exactly. But, you're right. There is a lot to dissect, but then again, there's maybe not as much to dissect as I had hoped for, because I feel like we can only meaningfully extrapolate things out of the first 43 minutes of the match before the red card. And, I posted the stats on Twitter last night, the match statistics before and after the red card, for what it's worth. At the time of the red card, Atlanta United was out shooting Alajuelense 6-3. Shots on target were 3-1 Atlanta. 64-36 the possession Atlanta. Key passes, which I think is the most meaningful stat of all, because that's how Opta assesses as a scoring chance. That was 4-1 Atlanta. That was all before the red card. Obviously, after Brad got sent off, the stats wildly tilted towards Alajuelense, as you would expect. But Atlanta United, I think one thing that I loved is that, and I was texting with a friend during the game last night, and so I was trying to keep one eye on the Hawks, one eye on Atlanta United. We were texting at halftime, and we both agreed, well, that's kind of a bummer. I guess we aren't going to see Joseph tonight. And sure enough, we did see him, which I think was a statement of intent and initiative by Gabriel Heinze that no buses are going to be parked with him at the wheel this year, even though that would have been a very justifiable thing to do. And Atlanta United worked to get the penalty. I don't know how Alexei Lala sitting in Fort Lauderdale could be so certain that that was not a handball. The referees a lot closer to it than any of the broadcasters were, so I'm going to defer to the referee. They worked to get the penalty. They converted. They held on. They won. They beat a team that had not lost in a long, long time in their park, and they did it with a first-half red card. And I felt very similar last night, Jason, to the way I felt that night in Minneapolis back in, March 31st, 2018, where Leandro gets a first-half red card. Now, what was different about that match was Atlanta United already had the goal when Leandro was sent off.
Right.
But you left the stadium that night thinking, wow, man, you really stole a result here. You're better than Minnesota, but you really stole something here. First-half red card on the road, and you win. That just should not happen. And it kind of felt the same way last night. Like, that just doesn't ordinarily happen. So, really, really great job by everyone. Couple players stood out to me in particular. I thought Miles and Anton Walks as the center back pairing did a remarkable job. I thought Santiago Sosa as the third member of that triangle. Sosa looks to me like he's going to be special, guys. I mean, I tweeted last night, if he plays like that all year, he's going to be MLS Best 11. He looks really, really good to me. So that triangle did a remarkable job. Hats off to the kid, Rocco Rios. Just absolute hats off to him. Being thrown into the fire in a very, very difficult spot, and he did not shrink from the moment at all. And I think hats off to Barco, to be totally honest with you. I mean, he made a mistake that led to the Guzan red card, but he shook it off. He came back. He attacked in the second half. He earned the goal. So a lot of things to get really, really excited about. But I'm focusing mainly, guys, on everything before the red card, because that, to me, I think is the truest indicator of how Heinze is going to want this team to play this year. So I'm not saying what happened after the red card is not worthy of analysis. It is, but I'm really zeroed in on that segment of the match where Atlanta United looked comfortable building out of the back, and the heat maps kind of show it. They look comfortable building out of the back. Yeah, I mean, there were a few mistakes. You expect that in game one. Few continuity issues. You expect that. But for the most part, you can see where all the hard work that this team put in its training camp really, really paid off last night. And as an Atlanta United, not as a broadcaster, as a fan, as a supporter, I'm really, really proud of that group. I mean, that was a really, really hard-earned win.
So then within the context of the first 43 minutes, a couple of other things stood out to me. Brad coming out a couple of instances, with his work, he's creating space and introducing the ball the way that he should, not afraid of coming outside the area. And then the relationship on the right with Lennon and Mulroney early, but I think it also speaks to what Brooks has been able to do and is continuing to do it here early in 2021 through the first match.
I thought Brooks was fantastic. I'm glad he brought that up. In fact, the friend I was texting with last night, we were talking about just what a great job Brooks Lennon continues to do. I really thought he was Atlanta United's best outfield player last year. I really, really do. And I think Glassy kind of rated him the same way. I think Frank before that kind of rated him the same way. And he just continued that last night. He's so solid. He's not going to make mistakes. And he's going to really help you build down that right channel and build out of the back. The point you make about Brad is a really interesting one, and it's something that Alec Can talked to Jason and I about a couple weeks ago on Facebook Live, and that interview is still up there, where the goalkeepers are involved in the build-up a little bit differently in the Heinze system than, say, under the Tata system or the Frank system or whatever. And I think we saw a few little hints of that last night. And this is going to be it's going to be an active season for Brad, not only in keeping goal, but being involved in building out of the back. And by the way, I mean, yeah, that's a red card. I have no argument with the referee at all. I think the mechanics probably made that a little bit more frustrating for Atlanta United fans when you pull both cards out of your pocket. The mechanics made it look like he was talked into a red. Looking at it in real time, that's a red card foul.
Yeah. Easy.
So I have no problem with that call whatsoever. And you know, someone tweeted me last night and asked me, and I'll ask you guys because I think it's a good question. This came up in the SKC match in 2018, where it actually was a really similar play, where Brad got sent off for serious foul play outside the box. And the question is, if you're Brad in that split second, what is the better decision? Is it to just concede the goal and not get sent off, or is it to commit the foul and risk getting sent off? And in my opinion, you deny the goal at all costs. You know, and if it means the goalkeeper is going to get sent off, that's the price you pay. In the heat of the moment, in the split second where Brad had to make that decision, it's really, really tough for the goalkeeper. So I'm not going to kill Brad for doing it at all. And you know, in fact, protecting the goal at all costs ended up being the correct decision because it saved a win for Atlanta United. But in a scoreless match in the first half, I would take the foul, risk getting sent off, and you know, protect yourself from conceding that goal at all costs.
Yeah, I still would make sure that you're in a goalless match at that point. I wouldn't surrender the goal and go down 1-0. I'd go after the tackle and keep the game scoreless.
I don't think that's the decision you make. I don't think you get a chance to make that decision because it's a split-second thing. I mean, go back and time it from when Barco's pass leaves his boot and Brad recognizes that this is going to be short and they're going to intercept. Sosa didn't recognize somebody was running in behind him either. Sosa needs to get a body on on Hernandez, who's coming in from behind him, around him, because Hernandez recognized more than anybody else did that pass was short and wasn't going to get to Kazan. So if you're Brad, your decision making at that point is not, do I let them score? It's 25 yards from goal. So, I mean, it's a goal-scoring opportunity, and I think in this case he was sent off for dog-so as opposed to serious foul play. Kansas City, I think they wrote it up as serious foul play because it was studs up, if I remember right.
Yeah. Well, and that's why, and you know, someone wanted to interject on a Twitter conversation I was having last night. That's why I did want to see the slow motion replay, and I don't know if we really ever got it conclusively. It's a red card foul.
It's a red card dog-so at a minimum. I don't think it was serious foul play.
And I think that's kind of an important element to it because if you're talking about a multi-match CONCACAF ban, serious foul play could play a part in any decision that would be made there by the CONCACAF disciplinary committee. Remember, too, that there's more time between the round of 16 and the quarterfinals this year. So if the CONCACAF disciplinary committee wanted to get involved, they'd have more time to do so. If it's not serious foul play, if it's just dog-so, then Brad's going to be available for
that's all it is.
Atlanta United advance. And short of any conclusive replay to show me something I haven't seen yet, it's just dog show.
Yeah, it's dog show. But the thing is, the goalkeeper can't make the decision of, I'm going to let the play just go here. Because he's got to come, because he's coming anyway for the pass.
Yeah.
So he's already in motion. It's a split-second thing. As one person pointed out on the Twitch pitch, which I think is a good point, it's more about the decision, Ropes had it, it's more about the decision not to go to ground there. Because you've got to come. Like, you're already coming for the pass. So you can't stop. So you can't decide, I'm going to stay on my line and see what happens. You're already in motion. So you got to keep going. The decision is, do I come and stand my ground? Do I see that it's going to be short, and do I hold my ground at the top of the 18? Or do I do what Brad did and go to ground for a tackle? Ultimately, he made the wrong decision. Barco put him in a bad spot, but Brad's late on the tackle. He doesn't get there to win the tackle. He gets a red card, and it could have been very bad for the team. Luckily, you had a couple things happen. You had Rocco Rios Novo come in and had some little bit of bobbles at times, but made 6 saves and looked pretty good for his first professional match at a high level. You also got a fortunate goal going the other way. In terms of that decision, Mike, I was talking about it earlier. I understand why the referee called it the way he did. You don't have VAR to clean it up, so there's nothing else. I mean, I'd have to go back and see how far away the referee was, but hands are up when the cross is being made and it deflects off of somewhere in that vicinity. So I get why the call was made. They had a replay like 10 minutes after the actual incident that really made me think it wasn't a handball. There were 2 replays right after the incident. The first one, I'm like, handball, no question. The second one from another angle, I'm like, well, maybe not. But that was all we got. I don't know if VAR even gets the replays fast enough to change that in a normal, I hate to say VAR's the normal situation now, but it is. But it's a tough call, and I can understand Alawa Lindsay being frustrated about that.
Yeah, but don't extend your hands then.
Yeah, exactly. That's the point. Is you have your arms up and you give the impression that you are trying to make yourself bigger. Now, I think it didn't. I don't think it came off his hand initially. From the last replay, that's my guess. But we didn't get a definitive angle or anything.
And that's the thing. Was it clear and obvious? And with the camera angles available, could VAR have gotten something clear and obvious to rule it out?
They didn't get the one angle that I thought gave you the best impression that it wasn't a handball. They didn't get that for a long period of time. So I don't know if they would have had it.
If I were the Alawalense broadcaster, I would not be saying this, but I will say it as the Atlanta United radio broadcaster. The referee was way closer to the play than any of us, so I'm going to defer to him.
I will say that I am very happy that for the first time I can really remember, the road team, and yes, an MLS road team, got a call go in their direction in this one. And it happens. I mean, think back to Monterrey. Think back to the penalty that Monterrey got against Atlanta in the first leg.
Which was not a penalty.
I didn't think it was. And that call goes against you. So, look, it happens. It's part of the game. You converted it. Alawalense had their chances. You handled it.
Atlanta United has spilled a lot of blood in road matches in the CONCACAF Champions League. How many times did they hit the woodwork at the Azteca? The bogus penalty at Monterrey, having to play in a lush meadow at altitude at Motagua. Herediano, I think, beat him pretty much straight up, but that was a difficult match for Atlanta United. Atlanta United spilled a lot of blood on the road in CONCACAF Champions League. It was about time that maybe a break went in their way last night, but you still have to create the break. And that's the thing. I mean, if you're putting 10 guys behind the ball or 9 guys behind the ball after your goalkeeper gets sent off, you don't even create the cross that's going to produce the decision. So there was still work that needed to be done by Atlanta United to even earn the break. And I don't think that should be lost in all of this. And by the way, I don't know what Atlanta United's XG was in the first 42, 43 minutes before Brad got sent off. But Atlanta United, they had a couple really threatening looks in the final third that just didn't quite work out. So if you're asking me who was better on the night, I still think it's Atlanta United.
Yeah, I do too.
And that it was not an unjust result for them to win 1-0.
No.
I get the frustration for Alajuelense, I really do. But, that's soccer. And a crazy play like that could easily happen next Tuesday night at Kennesaw, and we could be talking a week from today about something, totally unforeseen. So it's soccer. It adds to the fun. It gives us something to talk about, and that's the cool thing about it.
Yeah, I even questioning the penalty. Atlanta was the better team. 11v11. I know chances created in the first half. Alajuelense created 1. Atlanta created 5. Brooks Lennon created 3 on his own. I mean, it was a good performance. I think it ended up with 7 shots for Atlanta in the first half and 1 for Alajuelense. So it was a very good 11v11. Atlanta was by far the better team. Not even close. They were in control of the game completely. 11v10, Atlanta United did well. Your goalkeeper had to make some saves. You got a little pinned in late in the game. I think fatigue played a big factor, but you grinded out the result. Alajuelense didn't create super dangerous opportunities in the second half. Most of the shots that they received were from 20 yards plus in the second half. So that's good. That's a really good performance from Atlanta on both sides. Quality 11v11 and guts and grit 11v10.
All right, Mike. So this kind of has been going through discussions. When it comes to road wins, this one is obviously a part of a top 5 for historic road wins for Atlanta United. And I know that we can include Minnesota in 2018 and the 5 Stripes After Dark in San Jose as 3 of the 5. What would your other 2 be?
The win at Yankee Stadium in the playoffs for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. They've had a couple road draws that felt like wins, but that really doesn't count.
I put the Galaxy win in 2018 up there.
Yeah,
That's still one of my favorites.
That was a really, really good performance. The win at Philly in 2018 was a really good performance. The win they had at Columbus in 2018 is one that really doesn't get talked about as much as it should. That was an excellent performance by Atlanta United while they were in the midst of Open Cup and a lot of other things going on. And in fact, that was, I think, their last match before they went into the 2018 Open Cup. That was a Wednesday night kind of midweek match congestion. In fact, they had just gotten the draw at Yankee a couple days before, if I remember that correctly. And they went out and they dominated that match. And that was a match where they lost Joseph Martinez to a broken nose. So that's one, in the grand scheme of what happened in 2018, Atlanta United's had much bigger wins than that. I thought that was a really, really good performance, though, in 2018. Anytime you win at Orlando, it's big just because it's so hard to play there. There's a real atmosphere, and it's challenging from a condition standpoint. It's challenging from an intensity standpoint. And Atlanta United's gotten some really, really good league wins at Orlando. But yeah, I mean,
multiple shouts for the Open Cup semifinal win in Orlando.
Absolutely, that's got to be there.
Yeah,
I'll never forget the Mike Bianchi column in the Orlando Sentinel the day after that match. And Mike Bianchi, if you don't know, is kind of like the Orlando equivalent of Mark Bradley.
Mm-hmm.
He said, "How do we keep losing to these guys when we put everything into beating them?" Which was, from a Schadenfreude standpoint, just such a wonderful column to read. So, yeah, that absolutely has got to be considered. The Open Cup win against Columbus, where they had a rain delay earlier in the 2019 run, also has to be considered. So, there's a lot of them. But what was significant about last night is it's your first road win in an international competition. True road win. I mean, what you did against America was a neutral site. This is your first true road win in an international competition. It's also the first time you've won your first competition of the season, which I think is a big deal, guys. Now, what they did at Motagua last year felt like it was as good as a win, considering all they had to go through. But, I mean, this is an actual win. John, I think this one kind of stands on its own. This one's almost in a separate category, just as the playoff win at Yankee is in a separate category. I don't think you can put this in the same conversation as a regular season MLS match. I think in some ways it's more significant. And again, too, I mean, let's give a tip of the cap to Atlanta United's opponent. And I wonder what happens to them from here, just from an emotional standpoint. It's the first time they've lost in months. You know, they haven't been in their best form as far as playing for a lot of draws lately, but they've been really, really good. They're running away with their league right now. So I wonder how Alo Valenze will deal with it from an emotional standpoint. But there are so many things about what happened last night, John, that just are unprecedented in club history. And that's why I think this one kind of has to stand on its own. It's a big, big road win. It's, I think, in a lot of ways, there are overtones to that Orlando win in 2019 in the Open Cup. Mm-hmm. And I think there are a lot of overtones to that win at Yankee Stadium in 2018, because now we know they can do it. Now we know they can win in international competition on the road.
Yeah, the win at Yankee Stadium is the one that I think feels the most similar, because you had questions going into that off of decision day. You had the big performance. It increased the confidence going into the second leg. You took care of business. Should be the same here. We'll have to see how it plays out. We'll have a lot to talk about on stoppage time today. Plenty of things to dig into, and any questions we haven't hit here, we'll jump on stoppage time at 2 o'clock, facebook.com/929thegame. Mike, we're about to have a very hard transition from Overreaction Wednesday on Atlanta United into the Liga de Fútbol Profesional in Argentina.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a big one. It's Atlanta. You always have the crossovers with the league in Argentina. We know that. But it's going to be a conversation here in just a second with Klaus German, who is joining us from Paramount Plus. I'll finish with this one with you, Mike. Santiago Sosa, with what he showed with his time last night and knowing he came from River Plate, does he feel like maybe a dark horse after what you saw for Newcomer of the Year?
The problem with Newcomer of the Year, and I saw that tweet last night as I was leaving the Hawks game, mm-hmm. I almost feel like Newcomer of the Year is kind of like the Heisman Trophy a little bit, where you have to rush for a lot of yards and get a lot of touchdowns. And a holding midfielder may not have the statistics that will vault them to the top of that list. So, yeah, I mean, as far as quality of player, I absolutely feel like he could and should. I think it's going to be a little bit tough if you're not a goal scorer. We'll have to wait and see, though. I mean, what I saw last night, two things it really came to mind last night watching that. A, Sosa's a really good player who's going to fit in great with this team. Hopefully he stays healthy. B, I have a lot more respect for River Plate and the quality of play down in Argentina. Mm-hmm. Seeing how he came right from River to here and played at that level right away. He was, in my opinion, the best player on the pitch by a long shot last night. And there were other very good performances, but I thought he was the best. So I think it's a testament to the quality of play down there, and especially the quality of that River team.
Yeah, 100%.
Give him the Outland Trophy equivalent, Mike, basically, right?
Right, yeah. the Bednarik Award.
There you go.
We'll find the holding midfielder award for Santi Sosa. Mike, thanks. I'll talk to you at 2 o'clock.
Okay, see you guys.
Be good.
Make sure you're following him, Mike Conti 929, on your social media networks called Twitter. Let's get Klaus on with us now. Klaus German calls matches for the Liga de Profesional Fútbol in Argentina. And Klaus has taken some time to make his Soccer Down Here debut with us. Mateo, we'll get him onto the call here if things want to work. For me, helping Mateo out. There we go. And we're dialing up Klaus. Excited to talk to Klaus. He's been on quite a few of the calls on Paramount Plus, based out of the Miami area. And Klaus German is joining us now. Klaus, how are you?
Jason, how are we doing? Good morning. Everything good over there?
Yeah, doing well. I'll get your video up in just a second, but it's myself and it's John Nelson, my partner here on SDH, and we talk a lot about the league in Argentina, and I want to start with you kind of based off what we were talking about from the Atlanta United match last night. Santiago Sosa comes here from River Plate. There wasn't a spot for him really at River because of such a crowded midfield, and Marcelo Gallardo, sticking with the young player or the veteran players at River, and Sosa just had nowhere to go. So it's a huge opportunity for him to come to Atlanta and step right into a midfield for Gabriel Heinze. River has been good this season, but do they maybe regret losing such a great young talent?
Well, first of all, good morning to you, Jason, John as well, and the rest of the audience that's out there. Listen, Marcelo Gallardo, we can't really say anything bad about him. He's been a great coach for River. He's definitely turned the history upside down. Thinking about the fact that River spent 2011 in the second division of Argentine football, they're still getting laughed at. There's still, there's a lot of controversy beyond that. But I have to say that, River Plate has a team. It's a team that's been falling the last the last 2 years. It's a team that maybe we do a quick throwback to maybe 2018, and we have players such as Pity Martinez, the own Lucas Prato. The team started falling little by little. And we see it in the Argentine League as well. I had the chance to, not this past weekend, but the other weekend, to do Racing Club versus River. And they're not honestly on their game 100%. Sometimes they show those games. They show that those dynamic games with good football, with good soccer. But honestly, lately, it hasn't been happening as often. We saw that great game against Godoy Cruz that ended in a 6-1 victory. But we also see games, for example, like Palmeiras in Copa Libertadores, where they fell 3-0 at home. So it's like it's not constant. The team is not being constant. And I think Marcelo Gallardo, again, has lost key players. And I think Sosa could have definitely been a player to help him out. Right now, River's desperately looking for players. They just signed Palavecino, which I think it's a great midfielder. But again, they've let go certain players that I think, like you said yourself today, they're regretting letting go. Definitely not looking good right now in the Copa de la Liga. They're not in the qualification zone. They're not looking good. They're 2 ties back-to-back 0-0. There's been a lot of rumors going out about Rafael Santos Borré possibly going to Gremio, possibly going to Palmeiras. And I think, too, that's distracted him a little bit. If you think about, the amount of goals he's been scoring, the amount of minutes he's played, he's not on his game. The last 2 games, he hasn't been on his game. So, again, Marcelo Gallardo, we can't really say anything bad about him. We can't really discuss him as a coach. But he has been having trouble. We also have to say that River's going through a great financial situation, not a good one, where they had to let go of some players just to get some money coming in. They had to, for example, let go of Prato, who had a huge salary. They own Pity Martinez. They also let him go when he came here to the United States, to Atlanta United, and he migrated to the Middle Eastern. So, I mean, they had to let go of some players due to the fact that their financial situation is not the best one right now. But again, it's a team that, sometimes it shows that, they tie 2 games to 0-0, and then they come out of nowhere and they beat you 5-0, 6-1, and they show that great momentum. They show that great display of soccer. It just hasn't happened the last 2 games. And I think that's a reality. And I think some River fans are actually worried, thinking about what's going to happen in the next Copa Libertadores, which is going to be a couple of weeks away from now, where they're going to be teams where they are really, really preparing themselves. So River has to be up to the level of everybody else.
Who else has underperformed in your mind so far? I know that we're through 8 match weeks, and where everything is in Group A with River, I mean, you've got Team 2 through Team 9 separated by 3 points, but everybody's chasing Colón Santa Fe. Who else has underperformed in your mind in the first 8 weeks as we see things in the Copa de la Liga?
Well, there's 2 teams that are right now, they're really close to second their coaches, especially what happened last night between San Lorenzo and Santos, where Santos beat San Lorenzo at home and in Nuevo Gasómetro 3-1 for the Phase 3 of Copa Libertadores. Obviously, to explain to the people that whoever wins this match gets himself into the group stage of Copa Libertadores. I think Diego Dabove doesn't have a lot left in San Lorenzo. He's been questioned. There's been a lot of problems going on with the Romero brothers, with Angel and Oscar, the 2 Paraguayan national teams, and also Racing. Racing, they started off the season with a 5-0 defeat against River Plate for the Super Cup of Argentina. They haven't been performing well in the local league. They just came from losing to Godoy Cruz 4-2. So, I mean, that's another team that honestly disappointed, thinking about the fact that Racing also has been coming from playing Copa Libertadores and that they're also qualifying for the next Copa Libertadores. They're going to be playing it. So, I mean, I think those 2 teams, and in particular San Lorenzo and Racing, haven't been playing good. here, listen, there's been a lot of things going on about Boca Juniors. And then again, the people from Boca Juniors, in my opinion, and I always call them dramatic because I feel like there's always going on with Boca. But I have to say that Boca has been picking up their level lately. They've been picking it up. After that defeat with Santos, a lot of things were said, a lot of things were done. They wanted to get rid of half their team. A couple of games ago, there was a huge issue with Carlos Izquierdos and Frank Fabra where, Izquierdos said something to him in his face and Fabra slapped him in the middle of the match. But again, Boca are getting their points. They're getting their job done. It's been tough for them. It's been really tough. But, I mean, at least they've been finding their way. There's other teams that really have disappointed, such as San Lorenzo and Racing. Boca's getting up there. Right now they're in third place. I have to say the one team that has surprised me this season has been Independiente with Julio Cesar Falcioni.
Absolutely.
I think they've done really, really well. Lanús, really not surprising if you think about it. Lanús has been a team that's always been performing well the last couple of years. Right now they're in that second spot in the Group B of Copa de la Liga, followed by Vélez Sarsfield. And again, here's the inconsistency in the Argentine soccer because you see Vélez Sarsfield today first with 19 points, but that's the same team that lost to Boca Juniors maybe a month ago, 7-1. So again, you're saying, how does that happen? You know what I'm saying? How the team that's first lost to the team that's third or fourth, 7-1? Or what happened a couple of weeks ago, too, where Estudiantes lost to San Lorenzo. Estudiantes was a team that was probably up there in the first couple of positions, and they lost to San Lorenzo, who was second to last. So, I mean, again, this is a beautiful – and I tell people this, and it's not trying to sell them the product. It's not just, hey, come watch the Argentine League. It's just a matter of fact that it's such a great league because anything can happen. For example, you have in Spain, you have Madrid and Barcelona, and maybe Atletico now the last couple of years, always getting up there, always beating everybody else. In the Premier League, we have this momentum of Liverpool and Manchester City going back and forth. Now Liverpool has fallen a little bit behind, but it's always up there, both of them. But in the Argentine League, anything can happen. And then we saw it on Monday night, for example, where a team like Banfield came back and beat Estudiantes. They were losing 2-0 and they tied 2-2. So, I mean, it's such a nice league to watch because just anything can happen. It's just anything can happen. So, I mean, right now, I would say the teams that are looking good, if I have to project, it's probably definitely Vélez and I like Lanús too. And again, Colón, it's true that they're up there. It's true that they're in first place. But honestly, I wouldn't put too much bets on Colón to win this Copa de la Liga.
Oh, no, you're going against my man Pulga.
Oh, yeah?
Pulga has been amazing. What's the latest on him? I know he's had some injuries. They've had 2 draws out of the last 3. Colón's still undefeated. 2019, they were in the Sudamericana final, and then they're making a run like this. Are they a club that is maybe starting to elevate themselves like we've seen Defensa y Justicia do over the last few years, where now they're kind of a major player? Can Colón be that, or do you think this is maybe the end of an era for them?
Well, I mean, comparing to that Copa Sudamericana where they reached the final versus Independiente del Valle back in 2019, they lost a lot of players, including one of their main players. But again, at the same time, it's a team that if they keep their project going, if they respect their project and they keep it going, we might be looking at something into the future. But it's all about just respecting projects and just thinking and seeing if some of those players that are playing right now are going to stay and they're not going to decide to leave. We all know the situation in Argentina is not good. Yeah. Players are not getting paid well. There's a huge dollar issue going on. Right now it's, Argentina along with Venezuela, they have the greatest evaluation of dollar in the world. So, I mean, it's becoming tough. And again, even though I've said it a couple of times that the Argentine level has gone down, as referring to the league, you still see these great players coming out. You see Pedro de la Vega, for example, in Lanús. You see all these players that are coming out of nowhere, and they're such young, great talents, and they show a great display of soccer. Honestly, Colón, they have it good right now. They're having a good season. But it's that team that we say, okay, it's like, for example, Cruz Azul in Mexico. I don't know, maybe some people, if we have any Mexican audience, they can probably agree with me. It's that team that has a great regular season, but then once they get to the playoffs, they struggle. And I feel like Colón could be one of those teams that, has a great season, but then they probably find, Estudiantes or River or even Banfield in the playoffs, and they could probably lose to them. Mm-hmm. I hope I'm wrong. But it's just one of those teams that I wouldn't put my coins at. I wouldn't put my bets on. They're having a great season, like you said, so far. It's one of the only teams, if I'm not mistaken, the only team that's undefeated right now, the only team that hasn't lost a single game in the league. And then I don't know what can happen towards the future, but they're looking good. They're first place. I would just tell you that, they already sealed the qualification for the playoffs of the Copa de la Liga because right now we're thinking about the top 4 qualify from each group. and they would have to lose every single game remaining, and just hoping that, the ones coming behind, maybe Central Córdoba and Racing, can get a victory in every single game. Like some catastrophic thing has to happen for Colón not to qualify. So I think right now, out of all these teams in the Group A, Colón is the only one that has secured themselves a playoff spot in the Copa de la Liga. But again, we'll have to see towards the future if they can maintain this project, if they can respect it as well as respect the coach, and we'll see what can happen moving forward.
How do you like this format with 4 teams from each group going to a playoff? Group A, for example, after Colón, Banfield's in second on 13, 12th place Platense's on 8. You've got 5 games left in the tournament, and you've got 5 points separating 2 through 12. Group B's not, much more separated, with the final spots up for grabs, with Boca now in 1, Independiente in 1, but you get down to Tucumán in 10th on 9 points. There's a 4-point gap there. Is this playoff format going to add to the excitement in the league, in your mind?
Well, I think it's super exciting. And again, let me emphasize once again that I think this is one of the most exciting leagues in the world. And I'm not just saying this because I get to narrate it. I just say it because it's just, man, like I said, you have Talleres de Córdoba going in La Bombonera, beating Boca Juniors, then Boca tying against Independiente, then last Saturday, Talleres beating Independiente. So it's like everybody can beat each other. Everybody here can get a result. And it's just so exciting because, I understand, and again, let me go back to the Spanish league because it's a league that I use as a number one example. If you're a Real Madrid fan or a Barcelona fan, I understand it's fun. Your team almost wins every weekend. Right now, the last season or two, they've been having a little issue, especially Barcelona. But I think it's exciting when you have a league, when you have a product that you get to offer the public where anything can happen. Mm-hmm. Anything can happen. You can go into a game being second to last, and you can go ahead and beat the team that right now is second. You know what I'm saying? Like it happened, for example, with Estudiantes and San Lorenzo, the unexpected. And I think that's part of the beautiful game. That's part of soccer. The unexpected, what can happen. And again, some of these teams, they look really bad at one point, and then they can turn everything upside down the week after. So this format, I really like it. To be honest, I really like it because it's a little. I would say it's like a little MLS format if you think about it. Yeah. It's very similar to like a little MLS format. For the people that have been following Argentina league for the last couple of years, for the last 20, 30 years, the format has been almost the same. A super league with a bunch of teams. The one that has the most points wins. It's a back and forth round, home and away, and then the one with most points wins. Now I think they added a little more spice into it. It's a little more interesting. And again, you still have the teams from Group A playing the teams from Group B. So it's not like you're going to have strictly, the teams from Group A playing teams from Group A. No, you're going to have teams from Group A playing teams from Group B. So I think that's also super interesting. Again, right now, if you look at Group A and you said to yourself, even Platense with 8 points, it still has a chance to qualify. Yeah. And think about it. You're in 12th place. You're almost second. You're almost last. Taking out Sarandí, Arsenal of Sarandí, you're almost last. And you still have a chance to qualify with 5 games remaining. So it's just like that exciting feeling. I don't think I would have to go back and review and do a lot of research to find another league that offers this type of games, that offers this excitement. And Group B is the same thing. You're not that far off. Look at Sarmiento. They're in 11th place with 7 points. And then Lanús, 16th. They're 9 away with 5 games remaining. They still have a chance to get themselves in. So again, it's just so exciting, Jason. I think it's one of the most exciting leagues right now that's going on. Also, the format helps a lot. And, just the fact that, the inconsistency in some teams, it's really relevant. Again, I find this super, super interesting, and anything can happen in any game.
All right, so let me put your feet to the fire here a little bit. We've talked about the gap from, a team like Godoy Cruz, and we know that Group A is an absolute jumble right now. Who on the outside, and I'm talking, a little further down in the table, who do you think can be the teams that can make that run to get into the qualifying 4 by the time we're talking about this at the end of group play?
Well, I think Colón is definitely in Group A. I don't know about Banfield, to be honest. And again, I know they've been having a good run. But like I said, everything's just so tight. Just look at Racing. They have 12 points. They have 1 point less than Banfield, and they're in 6th place. I think Godoy Cruz will probably make it in there, to be honest. They have a good momentum going on. They just came from beating Racing at home 4-2 after a great game. Not only a good game, but it's just such great goals. It was just incredible, the amount of great goals we had that game. Be careful with Argentinos Juniors as well. They've been climbing up there. They've been getting a couple of good results. Only 1 loss in the last 5 games they played. They're coming up there. I don't see Rosario Central honestly making, even though it's been an important team the last couple of years in the Argentine soccer. I don't see him making up there. So again, I will give some coins to Godoy Cruz, probably to getting themselves up there, as well as Argentinos Juniors. And with San Lorenzo, it all depends what happens with Diego Dabove. I think they can do it. I think they can make it up there. But I don't know what's going to happen with Diego Dabove, to be honest. There's been a lot of questioning on him, especially after last night's defeat 3-1 in Argentina against Santos, which honestly, it's almost a done deal. They're not going to qualify to the Copa Libertadores unless something catastrophic happens in Sao Paulo in Brazil. I don't think I'm going to see him qualify to the next round of Copa Libertadores, or in this case to the group stage. Racing Club, again, a lot of questions, a lot of issues going on. Pizzi, it's being questioned as the head coach. Some people want him out. This morning I was watching a video of some directives from the club, some club staff that, they're the only ones allowed in the stadiums right now. They said some tough stuff to him during halftime against Godoy Cruz, where they were down 2-0. So again, they're not liking him.
That happened with them in the Libertadores last year too, where they were in that with, I believe it was Diego Milito, who he had an argument with board members before the game, and I remember Becca Sese pointing it out, like, yeah, this is why I'm leaving, guys. Like, I don't want anything to do with this right now at Racing.
No, yeah, no doubt about that. And also a lot of respect for Rebecca Sessa, who, Diego Milito was the one that brought him in.
Yeah.
And, after he saw what happened with Diego Milito and the injustice that was done with him, he decided to, take it up on himself and leave.
Yeah.
So, again, we don't see a lot of codes these days on the soccer world. So, again, a lot of respect for Rebecca Sessa. So, again, there's a lot of inconsistency on San Lorenzo and Racing. They're two big teams in Argentina. But, again, I don't know what's going to happen with them, especially with San Lorenzo, especially with Racing. So honestly, I would say that I don't see him making it up there. I just those two teams, and again, they have 12 points and 11 points. They're only 1 point away from qualification zone. I definitely see Estudiantes making it up there. I definitely see River Plate making it up there, and I definitely see Colón. It's just a matter of fact to see if Godoy Cruz and Argentinos can reach that position and take out Banfield, or maybe Banfield gets to just keep their momentum going and they can just go ahead and make it. But again, River, Colón, and Estudiantes, I know for sure will make it. I don't see River not making this playoff spot. And again, I will give some coins to Argentinos Juniors and Godoy Cruz because I think they might have a chance. They have good momentum going. Godoy Cruz, they lost 2 games back-to-back, but this victory last weekend against Racing definitely gave them some momentum going forward in the future. If they can maintain it, they could probably get themselves up there. So again, Group A, I would definitely go with Colón, River, Estudiantes, and just wait to see what happens with Godoy Cruz and Argentinos Juniors.
Any love for Aldo Civi and Fernando Gago? I've been paying attention to them with the similarities that we're going to watch here in Atlanta with Gabriel Heinze and then Fernando Gago getting his career started on the touchline. Aldo Civi's definitely a project, definitely a work in progress, but there's some really good soccer being played by them. It's a fun watch each week.
Listen, this is the type of coach you have to give some time.
Yeah.
It's like when Gallardo started. Let's just go back and see when Marcelo Gallardo started, River wasn't playing great soccer. Yeah. They really weren't. There was even at one point where they were thinking about sacking him. So again, these type of coaches, such as Gabriel Heinze, such as, right now the coach from Argentinos is slipping through. Gabriel Milito, Diego's brother.
Yeah.
These type of coaches that were players not too long ago, you have to give him some time. You have to give him a project and you have to give him some time. And I think definitely that's what Fernando Gago was all about, giving him some time. He's coming into a club where, let's just be honest, although Civi is not one of the great teams in Argentina. They haven't been participating in international tournaments lately. They haven't been up there in the top zones of qualification. So again, I think it needs time. They're definitely showing a great display of soccer in some games. But again, it's all about consistency and it's all about letting the coach work. Argentina has a great problem as well. I'm from Uruguay and I can tell you the same thing. Uruguay has an enormous problem not respecting the coaches, not giving them time to work. It's all about results. It's all about quick results. If it doesn't happen right away, you're out. And sometimes that's not what it's all about. We throw it back to maybe like I was just telling you about Marcelo Gallardo. Look how many coaches have been through Boca Juniors in the last couple of years. We're talking about more than 6 coaches. Mm-hmm. So comparing to maybe 1, San Lorenzo has had 7. You know what I'm saying? So it's like sometimes they don't let these people work. And when you don't let a project grow, when you don't give them time, sometimes you get this. You get these type of teams where, they just rather listen to what people have to say on social media or hear the fans. We don't have any fans, but hearing the fans booing in the stands or just following what everybody else is saying and not giving these guys time to work. And I think Fernando Gago is definitely a smart guy. Listen, he's been in Roma, he's been in Madrid, he's been in Boca Juniors. He knows about soccer. He knows what's going on. So again, I think it's just a matter of fact of letting him work, getting him the pieces he needs, and just wait. If it works out, great, and if it doesn't, at least you try. But just give the guy some time to work. And I think Aldosivi could definitely be one of those teams that in the next couple of year or two, just like it happened with Defensa Justicia. Remember what Becasesa did with Defensa Justicia? He brought him back from second division. They even fought that tournament with Boca and Racing all the way till the end in 2019. In the top positions. So I mean, you have to let these people work. You have to let these coaches work. I know sometimes it's easier said than done. I understand that because I know fans want results. But again, it's one of the first seasons of Fernando Gago. Let him work. Give him a chance to show what he's at. And then after the season's done, you can go ahead and, make a clean sheet, make a summary of the season and be like, okay, do we keep him or we not keep him? But at least let him finish and let him see what he can do.
Klaus, I should have known better. I told you like 15 minutes, and I should have known we would just keep going because we could do this all day.
It's a pleasure to be here, guys.
Let me finish with this one for you. You mentioned Uruguay and the fascinating story that we've seen this season with Rentistas coming out of nowhere, making it to the final. I mean, it's almost impossible for them to win the second leg tonight. But how exciting is it for you to watch a smaller team kind of get into that conversation with your Nacionals and your Peñarols and maybe start to shake things up in Uruguay a bit?
Well, first of all, let me say that I'm really surprised about the amount of knowledge you have on South American soccer. I don't think I never met anybody that has so much knowledge. You totally shocked me there with that information about Uruguay.
We haven't even gotten into Ecuador yet.
So again, hey man, shout out to you on that because I haven't met too many people that have that much information. Listen, what happened with Rentistas is just one of those games where, the classical, I have 15, 16 chances of goal and the other team has one or two. And that one or two goes in, and out of the other 14 from the other team, only one goes in as well. Listen, it was a total miracle what happened between Rentistas and Liverpool. It was just a total miracle. Again, Liverpool was looking really sharp. They won the whole tournament, the whole clausura without losing a single game, except at the end where they lose to Boston River. And thanks to that game, Boston River gets to stay in the first division of Uruguayan soccer. Again, that semifinal against Rentistas, it was just crazy, man. I got to watch the game, and you would just see Liverpool going back and forth, and Rentistas, the whole 11 players inside their goal, they were able to take it to penalties. And again, they won. In penalties, anything can happen. We know that. Yeah. It's just a matter of luck and a matter of accuracy. So again, they made it into the final. Obviously, the first leg against Nacional was a 3-0. Nacional was coming with a good momentum, with a new coach, Liguera taking over. Again, I think it was a wrong decision of letting Jorge Giordano go, just because of the fact that, thanks to him, Nacional got to actually make it to the definition of the Uruguayan Championship, thinking about the fact that they didn't win Apertura, Clausura, which are the two tournaments that get you into the final. But they did win the annual table, which is the Tabla Anual. They got most points, and some of those points also came from Jorge Giordano, who was sacked 2 games right before the end of the season. Again, I think Nacional will get the back-to-back championship, something that Peñarol did 2 years ago, where they got it in 2017, 2018. Nacional is coming for that 2019, 2020. And again, the Uruguayan League, and I'm going to tell you this, the Uruguayan League, it's a league that's turning slowly into an Argentinian league. And why am I saying this? Yeah. Because you have projects such as Montevideo City Torque, which is a team owned by the City Group. You have teams like Rentistas that are being privately owned. They're heading towards being privately owned and being privately financial. So again, it's turning interesting. Look at Peñarol. I'm a fan of Peñarol, diehard fan from day one. But I have to say, Peñarol has been really, really bad the last couple of years, at least the last 2-3 years. Yeah. Last night, for example, they had their first Sudamericana game against Cerro Largo, a team that finished second to last in the Clausura. They were winning 2-0, and they ended up tying 2-2. Oh. So, I mean, there's a lot of inconsistency, just like in Argentina, going on. It's really nice to see, bottom of the table teams make it up there, because at least it gives the league a better show. It's more interesting. It's not just about Peñarol Nacional, Peñarol Nacional, Peñarol Nacional. But again, It's really interesting. I just don't think, I'm going to be honest with you, I don't think Rentistas has a shot. No. Thinking about the fact that after they won the Apertura, which they beat Nacional in the final, they lost 7 starters. 7 starters left. Some of them went to Europe. Some of them went to Chile, such as Falcón, that went to Colo-Colo. Some of them went to Argentina. So again, when you lose more than half of your team, we're talking about maybe 70-75% of your team, it's really hard to move forward. And if we think about it, and this is something that, I was talking, believe it or not, I don't know if you guys know Mr. Chip, the famous Spaniard guy, and I was talking to him this week, and I asked him to please find out for me if there has been ever a case in Uruguayan soccer or in the world where the team that finished last in the Clausura gets to beat the team that finished first in a final. And that's what happened this year. Rentistas finished last in the Clausura, and Liverpool finished first. They were the champions, and Rentistas ended up beating Liverpool in the final. So it's like, those type of things is just, to me, again, if you're a fan of the team that loses, obviously it's not fun. But if you're an outsider watching the league, I think it's just super interesting to see that anything can happen. Listen, I'm going to sit in front of this TV and anything can happen. I know for sure this team's not going to win, or for sure this team's not going to win. Anything can happen. And I think that's really what soccer is about, surprise and excitement.
It's been exciting to talk more about South American soccer here in Atlanta with a very diehard Atlanta United fan base that is getting more accustomed to hearing about Lanús, for example, because there's been multiple players now have come from Lanús to Atlanta. The whole saga with center back with first David Martinez, who then goes to River from Defensa instead of coming to Atlanta, then Giannetti, and now Alan Franco, and we're waiting to see how that one goes down. So if you're an MLS fan, I think you have to pay attention to what's going on in South America. And even now, not just Argentina, you're seeing Ecuadorian players come to FC Cincinnati. You're seeing players from Peru play significant roles in this league. It's such an important element for an MLS American soccer fan to know what's happening in South America. And once you start to watch, like you say, anything can happen. And you will see things that, look, you just don't see in a mid-table English Premier League match.
No. And again, another thing about the MLS, and I was talking to a couple of guys last week about it too. Back in the day, Mexico used to be that bridge between South America and Europe, where the players will make a quick jump. If not go directly to Europe, they will make a quick jump to Mexico and then to Europe. And I think little by little, the MLS has become that new bridge. If you think about, for example, Brian Rodriguez, a player that came out of Peñarol in 2018, came to LAFC, had 2 great seasons, and now he's off to Almeria in Spain. Diego Rossi, I don't think he's going to last too much here in the MLS as well. One of the best players that we have. Some other players are, in their return, such as Carlos Vela. We know he's already in his 30s. There's not much future for him outside of the U.S. But again, the U.S. has become the league that some people are actually starting to pay attention to, because you have these players such as, for example, Almiron coming here to Atlanta United, boom, making that jump to Newcastle United in Europe. So again, some of these European leagues, I'm really close friends with John Lewis, the forward from Colorado Rapids, former New York City FC. Yeah. Currently playing, he just ended up playing the tournament of the under 23 for the United States that they failed to qualify to the Olympics. And again, he's getting looked at from Burnley, in England. So you're like, wow, okay, so they're paying attention not only in Europe, but they're paying attention in very, very much parts of the world. Very many parts of the world, they're starting to pay attention to the soccer here in the MLS. Listen, the salaries are good. The league is interesting as well, and the quality of life here, it's something that pretty much you're not going to find in any other place. You might find it in some places in Europe. Right now, the things in South America are pretty tough. So some of these players, they come here and they get to train in good clothes. They get to drive nice cars. They get to live without the fear of being robbed or being persecuted. Or I'm going to tell you something, Jason. Even the pressure. That in Argentina or Uruguay, there's a lot of pressure going on from fans, from club directives, or from whoever it could be. There's a lot of pressure, even for the coaches. Here in the United States, they come and they get to be at peace. Obviously, you have pressure. Everywhere you go, you have pressure. Yeah. But we can't compare the pressure that you might have at Boca Juniors. Look at Pavon. Pavon was being constantly being criticized in Boca. Oh, he's too fast, but he's not good with the ball. Oh, Pavon this. Pavon came here to LA Galaxy, and he's like, wow, okay, I get to play. Nobody criticizes me. I don't have a lot of pressure. I'm a star because everybody loves me. Mm-hmm. Why would I go back to Boca, earn half of the money or earn less money, and be criticized all the time and not leave at peace? So it's like MLS is becoming, I'm telling you right now, and I've said it a couple of times, and I guess I said it like 5 years ago and people laughed in my face. I said it in shows where people were watching and they literally started laughing in my face. The MLS is going to become one of the top leagues in the world. The one thing that I think the MLS has to fix is 2 things. First is the salary cap. They're going to have to get rid of that if they want to make it, keep expanding.
At least blow it up. It's got to get bigger. There's no question about that.
It has to. It just has to. They have to get rid. And I know it's hard, but they have to get rid of that salary cap. And 2, they're going to have to have relegations. That's going to have to be something that's going to have to happen, And FIFA is already looking at it. And FIFA has already said to the U.S., hey, listen, the World Cup's coming up in 2026. You have to do something about this because you are not in line. There has to be relegations. After the MLS, in my opinion, fixes those 2 issues, the relegations and the salary caps, I have no doubt in my mind. And again, I have the tapes from back in 2015, and I'm going to pull them out, and I'm going to stick my chest out because I said it. It's going to become one of the best leagues in the world. The stadiums are beautiful. The fans are always cheering. look at Atlanta United filling up stadiums, complete stadiums. LAFC, I had a chance to cover a couple of LAFC games last season. Incredible atmosphere. You got to see the fans. It looks like you're in Argentina. It looks like you're in Uruguay. The fans yelling the entire time, jumping, singing, cheering. It's just, listen, the atmosphere is here. The fans are here. The stadiums are here. And the players are getting here. Little by little, the quality of soccer is growing. If we compare the MLS today, 2021, to 15 years ago, it has changed a lot. It used to be just a place where people will come and retire. Now it's becoming a place where you're having Rossi's, Brian Rodriguez's, Almiron's, players, little by little, good players coming here and showing a good display of soccer. So again, watch out for the MLS, especially to my European friends who laughed in my face not too long ago. The MLS it's heading to be one of the top leagues in the world. It's just all a matter of time.
Yep. Klaus, people are already requesting you to come back and join us again soon.
Yeah, it'll be a pleasure. Just let me know when, and I'll be more than honored to be here and be along with you guys.
Awesome. What games do you have this weekend? Do you know yet?
Yes, this weekend they gave me on. Let me see. Let me just review them here because I do have them here. I have Godoy Cruz versus Arsenal. So again, that's going to be an interesting game because I still want to see Godoy Cruz after what I said today. Yeah. I want to see Godoy Cruz getting up there.
Yeah.
Defensa y Justicias en Talleres, which is the same day. So I'm narrating the first one and I'm commentating the second one.
Okay.
And then Sunday I'm doing Union versus Boca, which I think is also an interesting game.
Yeah.
You know, thinking about the fact that Union. It was one of the teams before this weekend that hadn't lost. They lost their first game against Vélez. And, Boca's coming good. They came from that tie against Independiente, which they could have won. Villa missed that penalty right at the last minute, or rightly, Sebastián Sosa saved it. They got a win last weekend after being down 1-0 against Defensa y Justicia. So, again, really interesting game there. If Union wins, they get themselves up to the fourth position, maybe third. Again, if they beat Boca, they pass Boca on the table. So I think it's more of an interesting game. That one goes on Sunday, 5:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So those are the three that I get to do this weekend.
Excellent. Every game have a Lucas Leak moment for you, sir.
Oh, jeez.
My God. Did you see? And that's funny because Matt Lawrence, he was on the commentary. He's a great commentator.
Yeah.
And he said, after the first goal, he said, I don't think he's never going to score one like that ever again. And then second half, you get that. Just listen, they were already 4-1. So again, maybe we don't see it as excited, but it was a great goal. Again, first time shot from outside of the box after a corner kick. You don't get to get. He was chosen as the player of the weekend. From the Argentine league. What a great weekend for him. 2 amazing golazos. Honestly, it was great to be able to do that game.
In a 4-2 loss to be player of the week, yeah, you better have some golazos up your sleeve for that.
And let me just say a quick information too. And I was tweeting it this week. 2 players, Gouffre and Wingard, tested positive for COVID right after that game with Lanús. Gimnasia already had a couple of players off and down because of the fact of COVID. They didn't travel to play against Lanús. Yeah. But just be careful because today is the day where some of these Lanús players are getting their COVID tests done. Okay. And we might possibly see some positives as well, thinking about the fact that, there was a lot of contact. There's just one play where when Wingard goes down in the ground and there's like a little fight going on and everybody goes around Wingard. Again, he tested positive for COVID. So we might see some more cases. There's cases also in Independiente. Julio Cesar Falcioni has COVID. So again, something to be on the lookout for. It's not bad. I don't want to say this, but it's better that it happens now than it happens towards the end of the season where the playoffs come. Sure. But again, a lot of teams are having difficulties when it comes to COVID, and a lot of teams are losing players. So watch out for those tests that are going to come out today for Lanús.
Klaus, thanks for taking your time with us today. Really appreciate it. Let people know where they can follow you on Instagram and on Twitter.
Well, I'm in Instagram as Klaus German _. It's Klaus, last name German, just like Germany, but without the Y. And same thing on Twitter, Klaus German _. It's the 2 platforms that I usually try to stay connected. Again, I'm not one of those people that constantly puts whatever, things about their personal life. I always try to be, especially if I'm doing this specific topic, I want to go ahead and try to inform people about it. Last season, I was doing some of the MLS games. So again, I was trying to focus towards the MLS. This year I'm doing Argentina League, so I'm every information I have is going to be posted there. So nothing, guys. Thank you so much for the invite. It's been a pleasure. And again, anytime I'll definitely be back.
Excellent. Cool. We'll talk again really soon. Thanks for the time. Appreciate it.
Be good.
Have a great one. You guys be safe.
You too. Klaus German, make sure you're following him on his social media for sure. Excellent interview. Can't thank him enough for taking the time for us today. Really fun commentator to listen to. I think it was the first River game that he did. That was the first time I had heard him. And great stuff. And he's done a lot of stuff in South Florida with UPSL. That's where I first became aware of him. We have a lot of friends in common, but it's the first time we've had a chance to really chat. So glad everybody enjoyed it. It seems like a lot of people did enjoy that interview, and we'll continue to dig into this stuff. Like I told Klaus, if you follow MLS, if you follow especially Atlanta United, like you need to know who could be next. You need to know the clubs they're coming from. You need to have an understanding of Rocco, for example. I mean, Rocco's coming from Lanús. What kind of a club is Lanús? You need to know what these players are coming from and what kind of personalities they can have. And a player like Santiago Sosa, for example, coming from River, he's going to be quality because of what River develops. So lots of different things. Great stuff with Klaus. We will have him back. Don't you worry. We will make sure we appoint some time for Klaus to join us. Between Klaus and Tom Robinson, we will have plenty of South American soccer conversations on Soccer Down here.
Yes, the slightly excitable Klaus German. It was fun to have him on and get his perspectives and definitely the point that you made about understanding where players are coming from, so you can keep an eye on them and look back on them to see where things are going. No, it was fun to have Klaus on. It'll be good to have him back. And obviously, looking at folks in the Twitch pitch, they liked having him on, and they want him as a regular now.
That's the plan. What else do we have on Twitter before we start to wrap up? The rest of the day gets really busy with 12:20. I'm on 92.9 The Game, talking to the midday show about last night's match. Then I'll be recording a podcast with Jessica Charman, Written on the Pitch. I'll get her takes on the game from last night. I'm sure we'll talk a good bit of goalkeeper situations between Brad and Rocco in that match. Then 2 o'clock, we've got stoppage time, facebook.com/929 The Game to get into that. And I'm sure if you are a member of our Discord, if you're a subscriber here on Twitch, if you're a Patreon member, there will be lots of watching along with Conca Champions tonight. Really good games tonight. Really good games. Saprissa and Philadelphia kick us off at 6 o'clock. Then at 8 o'clock, it is Leon and Toronto, and there are some reports that Alejandro Pozuelo will not be available for Toronto tonight due to injury. That is a big problem for the Reds. And in the nightcap tonight's a good one, Olimpia and Club America. I wonder if Club America will be looking at what happened with Cruz Azul yesterday and say, you know what, maybe we need to go a little more full strength tonight because we're playing a much better team in Olimpia who surprised some folks last year up in Seattle and in Montreal. So lots of soccer to talk about the whole rest of the day. So we're not doing a 10-hour show or a 4-hour show or even a 3-hour show. We're going to start to wrap up. So final comments on Twitter right now.
Okay. What we have from Caleb Cook, after looking at the action last night, he said, renewed energy in the club and with the 7 teams, seemingly more depth than last year with a refreshed and retooled roster. Loved seeing Joseph, a new exciting manager, a healthy, rejuvenated Barco, Bellows' continued development. And now Caleb is now calling him Slammin' Santi Sosa.
Slammin' Santi, okay.
Slammin' Santi Sosa. And looking forward to a full year of Marcelino Moreno. So Caleb Cook has a lot of positives. Tafka was shocked that Atlanta United had the stamina for that match last night. Was anyone else?
Yeah, I thought they were going to suffer. We talked about substitutions on the watch-along. I thought they were going to need to go to the bench earlier, but guys gutted it out. And sometimes a collective belief, sometimes that mentality can overcome where your fitness is at a certain point, can overcome being a man down. And I think seeing that level of commitment from the roster last night is a really good sign for this group going forward. If you have that, you can build something special. If you're an incredibly talented team and you have a really good philosophy, but you don't have that commitment to fight through tough times, you're going to have limitations. If you have the commitment and you don't have the talent, you're going to have limitations. If you have both, which I think Atlanta United does, you can do some special things. And like we talked about with Klaus about time, that's something where here Gabriel Heinze is going to get to do the project that he wants to do. He's not going to be pushed out after one bad result. He's not going to be pushed out after a couple bad results. He's going to get to work. And starting point is pretty far down the road for where we thought it could be. If this is the starting point, that's good for where you really get some work in and improve down the line.
And that catches us up on all of the Atlanta United stuff on the Twitters.
Update real quick on Miami. Chris Henderson, their sporting director, said there's nothing new on the Blaise Matuidi investigation. They're waiting on something from the league in terms of what kind of punishment they could get. They do have 4 designated players because Matuidi will be a designated player this season. They have to be roster compliant by opening day. And we had talked about it yesterday, I think, in the Discord about, well, it sounds like you'll make Matthias Pellegrini a U22 because he's age eligible, and there you go. But it sounds like, according to Tom Bogert at MLSsoccer.com, where you would think he would know what the MLS line of thinking is going to be here, he can't be moved there. That initiative has not been announced as of yet. I don't know why. This is really making it confusing to talk about how teams are being built. But a league source tells MLSsoccer.com, I know that's really clunky, but that's the way it is. A league source tells the league website that Pellegrini is not expected to qualify for the tag due to his salary. There are certain thresholds for salary that can make you ineligible. I didn't think his salary would be that high, but there were no salaries published last season by the MLSPA, so we had no way to know. So you got 4 designated players, you got 3 spots. What are you going to do? You're going to have to move somebody on. You're not going to move Rodolfo Pizarro. You're not going to move Matuidi. You're not going to move Higuain unless River wants to come get Higuain or something, and then maybe you figure something out. None of those are really likely at the moment. Because there's nowhere for them to go in the short term. So you could move Pellegrini. You're probably going to have to loan him. Okay. He needs to play, so that's not necessarily a bad move, but where can he go and what can you do? Because the Argentine window is closed. Mexican window is closed. Colombian window is closed. European window is closed. You could loan him to a club in Brazil, and they would have the money to pay the salary to take him off of your books, which is going to be necessary. The window is open in Uruguay. I don't think there's anybody who has the money to pay the salary. If the salary is big enough to make him ineligible for the U22 initiative, you're talking about $600,000 plus, I believe. You're not going to loan him to Rentistas. They don't have the money. So you're talking about one of a Palmeiras. You're talking about I don't even think you're talking about Santos. I think Sao Paulo, maybe. Maybe Grêmio? I mean, you're talking about a small number of Brazilian teams who you're going to have to convince that, yes, we need you to take this guy on loan, and we need you to pay his salary, and you're going to have to give up probably a very low buy option to get that to happen, and you're going to risk losing him because of the way you've managed the roster situation. And that was before Chris Henderson. Now he's got to try to clean it up. It was very disjointed in Miami with the signings and the roster build, and we know some of the complications that were there, and we know some of the multitude of cooks who are in the kitchen trying to make meals, but they're going to pay for that this year. Not even just the punishment for Matuidi. Now they got to get 4 designated players into 3 before the end of next Friday.
That's going to be a fun saga down in Miami to follow.
Yeah, that's not going to be easy to pull off. So we will have to see where the Pellegrini thing goes. I would have never guessed his salary would have been too high to get there. I would have thought it would have worked out, but who knows? We will figure it out. Jason Nix wants to loan him to the Miami FC. That would probably double their budget if they had to pay his salary. Yes. I believe you could loan him to another MLS team. They would have to be able to take him on as a designated player. There are a few teams you might be able to work that out. Nix asks, can you loan him and pay part of his salary? You're going to have the other team pay whatever the minimum threshold is to get him off of your books. And my impression for a designated player was all of it. I don't know if that is 100% accurate because the MLS roster rules and regulations can be a little confusing. They can also be incomplete in what is published publicly, and they can also be bent a little bit to fit certain things. 4 designated players into 3, you can't bend that one. So how do you solve this situation without decimating a team that you would like to not be a decimated team and actually be good? That would be nice.
No, right there with you. I'm looking. I want to see how they're going to get 4 into 3, and I want to see what the end result is.
Now,
but yeah,
to go the other route, Will says, could they just straight up cut Matuidi and dead cap him to where he doesn't count as a designated player? You don't have to dead cap him. You have a buyout. You can make a buyout every year, and that's ultimately what the LA Galaxy had to do when they were in this situation with 4 into 3, where they had to buy out Giovanni Dos Santos, and you had to pay out his salary, buy him out, and release him. And that was what they had to do. So if you get to that situation with somebody like Matuidi, you could. It doesn't sound like that's even in play. You wouldn't do that with Pellegrini because he does have resale value, you would think. I think you're going to have to find a willing partner in Brazil to take Pellegrini off your hands. Or you're going to have to really get creative when it comes to a Matuidi or an Higuain and buy him out and maybe find, although this might have got you in trouble before, some squirrely things with finances so he can go somewhere he wants to go in the summer. I don't know. I don't know how it works out. I have no clue. They're in a tough spot, and they don't have a lot of ways out of it.
Yep. What else is on Twitch pitch?
Hold on one second. Thomas, I don't want to confuse this, and I know we're getting into banal situations here when it comes to MLS roster rules. The U22 initiative has nothing to do with the cap hit here. From my understanding, it is specifically the salary that Pellegrini is being paid that is too high for him to count as a U22. Remember, U22, you can pay whatever you want in transfer fee, according to what we know of the rule that hasn't been published and announced yet.
Right.
Which, again, this is where we are in MLS in 2021. But it's not about the transfer fee paid for that. It is specifically about his salary that makes him ineligible for U22. And we don't know what that is either because it wasn't published last year. So it's not about the cap hit that makes him ineligible for U22. It is specifically the salary that he gets paid that would make him ineligible. To get him off of the DP situation, if the salary is that high plus a substantial transfer fee, I don't think you're pulling that off. Unless everybody's not talking about that. You know, I mean, that's the thing, is that would be the easiest solution, is you just buy him down. If nobody's talking about that, I'm assuming it is not possible to happen. But if it does, then Tom Bogert and Sam Stajkal and Paul Tenorio all just missed that being the easiest solution. I'm assuming it can't be because I think his transfer fee was pretty significant. Yeah, his total budget charge has to be Thomas says less than 1.6. I don't know if that's the case. It was a pretty good transfer fee because he was a pretty heralded player coming out of Estudiantes. So I don't know. If it's less than 1.6, then just use allocation money to do it unless you don't have any. Yeah, Transfermarkt says 6.6. I don't know how long of a contract it is. But the salary has to be over $600,000. Again, we're trying to guess things about a rule that hasn't been announced yet, about a transfer fee that we are assuming via reports, and a salary that hasn't been published. That's what we're doing, trying to figure out Miami's roster situation. That sounds like that's what Miami does about trying to figure out their roster situation too, by the way. So good luck, Chris Henderson. We're all counting on you. Hopefully you don't break any rules in doing this like the team did last year. Proceed.
Yeah, Mr. Fantastic says MLS needs to force Miami to pay a luxury tax if they want to keep a fourth DP.
Well, I mean, I don't have a problem with that if you want to create some situation like that, but you didn't rewrite the rule book for LA Galaxy. I don't think you're going to rewrite it for Inter Miami. So they're going to be in a situation where they're going to have to figure a way out of this that's going to work. And I don't know what it does. I have no idea. I mean, right now he is a designated player. You have to figure out a way for one of your four designated players not to be one. And it seems like it's one of two things. It is a buyout of somebody, and Matuidi would be the most likely to buy out, or it is a loan, and Pellegrini would be the most likely to loan to a Brazilian club that would pay his salary, and in return, you would probably have to have a buy option in there that you would take a loss on, because the Brazilian clubs are not stupid, and they would absolutely know that we've got you over a barrel right now. You have to get roster compliant because they're going to know enough about that. I think people assume that other clubs don't know MLS roster rules. Maybe they listen to the show. I don't know. Maybe they read things. I'm just saying. I think they're going to have an idea. So you're going to go to that table, and Sao Paulo is going to be like, yeah, We like Pellegrini. He's good.
Yeah.
We could use him. He's a nice player. We know you paid around $6.6 million for him. We'll take him on. We'll take his salary, and we demand a buy option of $2 million. Oh, no, you can't do this to us. Well, then don't be roster compliant and have fun. That's probably the conversation. That was a scene from the Sao Paulo boardroom. There you go.
Yes. We're caught up on Twitter. What else is on your mind?
That is about it. If you have questions on the Twitch pitch, throw them in now. Other things, Hernan Losada is not happy about his team's lack of fitness. He said he didn't expect to have a team so unfit when it started preseason. And he said that they're going to have to be the fittest team in the league if it wants, quote, to compete with teams that are better than us, teams that have larger budget and better players than us. He said, at this point, we can only play the way we want for 60, 65, 70 minutes, not more than that. That's a problem. And called out his team's fitness coming into camp. That's not good. LA Galaxy, who understand the MLS roster rules, and they've had to do it the hard way from time to time. Kevin Cabral of Valenciennes is reportedly going to head to the LA Galaxy. Transfer fee of a bit more than $5 million. 21 years old. He's having a breakout season in the French second division. $5 million, French second division. I know they hit on Roman Alessandrini a few years ago. I get it. If I got $5 million,
that's kind of steep
for a French second division player. I'm going to South America. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I'm going to South America, and I'm spending that elsewhere, and I might get 2 players, and I don't know. He's not expected to be a designated player, but that's not 100% just yet. Chicharito made it clear that he is not retired from the Mexican national team. He wants to get back there. He said, the day I don't want to go to a national team, I'm going to retire. He was also pointed out that in a preseason match against Kansas City on the weekend, he had a horrible miss, according to AS, and that's not helping his case to get back into the national team. Victor Vasquez talked to AS, and Vasquez is excited to play with a former teammate. I think we forget that Jonathan Dos Santos was at Barcelona, same time Vasquez was, and they played together in 2011 with Barcelona B. Happy to play with him. Also happy to play with Chicharito. Vasquez got a lot out of Josie Altidore, serving him up on a platter. If he can feed Chicharito, then maybe Chicharito does get back into the Mexican national team. Just have to see. Cincinnati got their center back on loan from Aucas, Gustavo Vallecilla, 21-year-old Ecuadorian defender. He started at 17 with Cuenca, went to Aucas, spent a year with Barcelona on loan, 47 games in the Ecuadorian First Division. He's got Libertadores experience. He's got U20 and U23 national team experience for Ecuador. It's a loan to Cincinnati, but that feels like a really good get if you're Cincinnati. We'll see how long it takes him to transition. And then the other one on Cincinnati, The Athletic reported it yesterday, Frankie Amaya might get the trade that he's been looking for a while. Things got quiet. Now Cincinnati is back on the trading block trying to get a deal done. He still wants to go. He said, I've given everything to Cincinnati and the fans over the last 2 years. I will always be grateful for their support and kindness. During this offseason, I've realized that the club doesn't have the same level of commitment to me, so I've asked the club to trade me as I don't feel my goals can be achieved in Cincinnati. Fair enough. Well, the Red Bulls and Philadelphia are 2 teams that have shown a lot of interest in getting him. Cincinnati recently lodged tampering charges with MLS against both of them. That might make it hard to deal with them in getting a trade done. We'll see what else comes of this. Sam Stejko and Paul Tenorio were both on this report yesterday from The Athletic. LAFC has also shown interest in getting Frankie Amaya. So that's where things stand currently. Bartimus Prime is starting the Frankie Amaya to Atlanta train. I don't know where he plays in this midfield, man. I like Frankie. I would really like Frankie in the system. I think he'd be good for it, but I think you already got enough players in this midfield. I don't know if you can find a deal that makes sense. But I'm really curious to see where Frankie Amaya ends up. Later today, you have Bayern hosting PSG. No Serge Gnabry. He tested positive for COVID. Porto hosting Chelsea. Thomas Tuchel said Christian Pulisic, Conte, and Abraham are fit enough to travel. He said Christian went out right before the injury could happen, so Pulisic could be part of the team, could be part of the lineup tonight. He talked a little bit about the Rudiger Kepa situation, too, and he said it was an incident in training. He did talk about how serious it was, but he said they solved it straight after training in a very honest, humble, direct way and showed me they have good character. No punishment so far because of the way they dealt with it. That felt like a lot being made of maybe a little bit.
Yeah.
So,
go ahead. No, just some of the Chelsea players, I think, knowing that cameras were at practice the other day, they playfully punched each other as a way to show their support for their players with the dust up.
Yuck. Arce's win last night draw against Cruz Azul. It was the first result from a Caribbean team versus a Mexican team since 2012. 16 losses to Liga MX teams since W Connection from Trinidad and Tobago drew with Chivas 1-1. Portland drew 2-2 with Marathon. Savarese said all the right things afterwards. He was happy with the way his team played. He said it showed the result, showed the quality of Marathon and how they make the game difficult. He feels good about going into that second leg. Today it is Saprissa Philly at 6 o'clock. Saprisa's last win was February 21st. 5 draws and 2 losses since. 5 goals in their last 8 games. Philadelphia is not at 100%. We'll see how good they can look in that early game today in Conca Champions. León and Toronto is the next game. Mentioned Pozuelo possibly not being available. León, 3 straight wins. They beat Toluca on the weekend. They're starting to get into some really good form. And then Olimpia and Club America. Olimpia will be missing Debbie Flores from a red card in the final match of CONCACAF Champions League for them last year. They come in after a win on the weekend. They've won 5 of 7. They are the best team in Honduras right now. Club America is going to use this match to get Nicolas Benedetti and Bruno Valdez some time and start to get them back sharp as they look ahead a little bit to the Liguilla coming up in Mexico. That's your games to watch today. You got Champions League in Europe. You've got Champions League in CONCACAF. Tons of stuff to get into. Final comments from the Twitch pitch. Will points out that $5 million, if the LA Galaxy wanted to do that, would get them a Santiago Sosa. That is true. I would definitely go do that. Will says it should be Frankie Amaya for Pellegrini straight up. Who says no? I don't know if Cincinnati's got a designated player spot to use either. I don't think they do. Jason Nix wants to know the juice boxes for PSG and Bayern.
Get you the juice boxes for PSG and Bayern. I have the juice boxes for Conca Champions, so we'll go back to that.
Okay.
PSG and Bayern will give you the juice boxes for both matchups real quick. Bayern PSG. Bayern's a minus 105. Draws a plus 292. PSG's a plus 276. Chelsea is a minus 130. Your draws a plus 250. Porto at home is a plus 438. Your juice boxes for Conca Champions. Saprissa is favored. They're at a plus 108. Philadelphia is a plus 227. Your draws a plus 252.
Give me the draw.
León, a minus 200. Your draws a plus 318. Toronto is a plus 519, and that has skyrocketed in the last hour.
Not touching it.
Olympia is a plus 200. Your draws a plus 224, and Club America is a plus 134.
I could be persuaded into a draw in that one, but I'm not touching the León one. I think they get the win.
Yeah.
Also today, 12:45, Juventus and Napoli. Juve missing quite a few players. What are the numbers on that one?
Efforting as I slide down to the Italian portion of the juice boxes. Juve is a minus 105. It hasn't changed all that much. Juve is a minus 105, draws a plus 268, and Napoli is a plus 300. Inter, a big favorite, hosting Sassuolo at the same time.
Let's go Napoli. Let's go Napoli. I'm all in on that one. That's it for us today. Again, I've got radio at 12:20 with the midday show. Stoppage time at 2, an hour of Atlanta United conversation, and we will dig into that. Both the game from yesterday and also looking ahead and even peeking ahead at Orlando to start the MLS season. So lots to dig into. Facebook.com/929thegame. And some point today on your podcatchers, Written on the Pitch with Jessica Charman will post, and she will give her thoughts on yesterday and probably a lot of focus on the goalkeeper situations and such. Thanks for hanging out with us. Bunch of folks watching, bunch of folks commenting, bunch of folks watching last night as well on our watch along. Really appreciate all the support. Really appreciate blasting it out, telling people about it. We'll be back tomorrow, 9 a.m. ish, and we'll have more soccer to talk about. Mucha plata, y'all.
Much plot to you.